You work a lot with irony, and sometimes people understand it. I think this.
Well, preschool was difficult.
And do you like? How many plays have you written? How many have been performed? Just to give a little bit of context to people.
Two of them have been performed at like premiere and stuff.
As student productions.
As student productions, but this was my first play that I wrote in my first semester for writing. So this is my third play. Yeah.
All right. Ek gaan nou by julle uitkom. Ek gaan net gou oopmaak vir. I would love to hear some comments. So I'm going to start with the people who read the play. Let's start with Cornelia, because you're with, or let's start with Dion then. Is Tracy here today? Tracy's right there. So let's start with Tracy, then you don't have to do a lot of walking. We just need to, so your microphone isn't switched on, Tracy.
I love the script. I thought it was just a lot about so many times, and as everybody knows me, and really laughed about really, really difficult. But I think the characters were extraordinary. I thought everything was nothing about it that I didn't know. And I thought the way to see it on the stage, it was a great job. And today for such a long time, you know, I think it deals with so many issues, but in a way the irony and the satire is just such a difficult thing to get right. It's just easy to write something really that's great, but to get that comic tone just right is incredibly well. Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying it in a patronized way, but I cannot believe how long you are.
Thank you very much.
Larissa, then we can come to Dion. Whilst we wait, just a question. I mean, just for the audience here. So, if you cast this, is there specific kind of backgrounds that these characters need to, the actors need to have? Do they need to be a specific race, etc., or is this kind of a script where it can be cast in any way?
I think that it can be cast in multiple ways, depending. Yeah, I think that the only thing is that Alexander has to be a white male, because that's like the most like irritating breed.
Okay. Yes.
I'm so sorry. So Alexander definitely has to, and then Lena's character definitely has to be someone who is, not from, she has to be othered in a way that she's like, her nationality is different.
Yeah.
But I think, if that comes into play, then, I would have liked maybe if the mother is also like someone who's othered in that way, but it also works if she's the same race as the doctors, just showing the contrast of like where you come from, where you end up, and everything. But I think that like a director could really make that decision. Those are the only white males, basically just the.
Yeah,
has to be
we
the
hate
thing.
the white Can we get, is that microphone on? I can't yet.
Do you want to use this one? Yeah.
It's just that a lot of that. And I think it is everything about the band. You know, you've got everything. It's funny, it's sadness about this world to this. Not only Nollywood.
Can you hear Dion? No one can hear you, Dion. Don't worry. You must just speak in the. There we go. Thanks, Dion.
I'm obviously not effective. I just love the play. I think it's delightful. I like the balance of everything. You know, it's a little bit of everything, and issues, and funny, and light, and dark, and it just manages to pull all of that together. I really think it's perfect.
Thank you very
And I
much.
love the cast. I think wow. And young, I love the young. I think the youthfulness of it is lovely. Now I want to see a real play about the wife.
No, this is my final one. Sorry. Glad you guys could be here for it.
Well, do you have comments, just working with the play, as actors, from an actor's perspective? And then I'm opening it up for any questions, so you can raise your hand if you want to comment.
Me?
Yeah.
I don't have anything to say. It was lots of fun, and there was a lot. Yeah, as soon as we sort of all got together, I think as soon as you read it, you sort of got an idea of all of the different characters, and then as the first time we all read it through, it was amazing to see it come to life and to how everyone sort of interpreted the different characters and brought sort of those, it's sort of the bad things of humanity, and Vess also spoke a lot about sort of millennials and the self-centeredness and how each of them, doctors are sort of, archetypally meant to serve, but how each of these characters are sort of just very consumed with their own lives and their own opinions, and how that clashes. That was interesting. Yeah.
And I think, and just from a dialogue perspective, for me as a reader, it was just incredible because it just read like, it wasn't unnatural, it's so natural, it's so and witty and quick, and the structure is just amazing, but the dialogue, didn't you find it, often you read something and you need to, as an actor, kind of really struggle with the dialogue to kind of make it so that that it's placed right in your, I can't speak. Yeah. Did you find it easy, or am I just as a reader I found it kind of easy?
Yeah. No, I just think there's something when a cast can easily learn lines because the reaction to each line is so tight. And each of the characters, especially the doctors, their objectives are so clear that you completely understand your role and your interpersonal relationship with all of the other doctors on stage. So it actually came very easily in a read, I think, which is a great thing.
Yeah, I found that the text was really easy to work with also because everything was so well motivated, and it was very well motivated within a context of identity politics, and how each character kind of, was really kind of driven by selfish aims and ego a lot of the time. And that's, a thing that is, everyone understands, any actor understands, I guess. And so the text it felt very natural to work with. And it was also, just on a side note, just lovely to just be kind of with creatives again after the last 2 years, kind of in rehearsal, and then just being reminded of how much talent there is around here. It was a lovely process. Yeah,
and it's lovely to see you for the first time at Teksmark.
Yes.
I didn't know you existed. I told Basil, told me, what about this actor? And I said, who's that? And I don't know why I didn't know who you are.
Can I please just say that 3 minutes before we started performing, Nicholas was like, so who's in the audience? Who's watching this?
It's wonderful. We've got beer there.
Hi there, Lisa. I really enjoyed the piece. There was a lovely rhythm to it. Unlike the other ones I've seen, yours was so tight that it almost felt like a complete play. And I was wondering, for the full-length play, at what point does the homeless woman enter, and what point are they then left with the baby? And do they spend most of the time outside at the smoking room?
Yeah, so I actually wrote the play as a 20-minute play. And we kind of like, we condensed it like for the Teksmark extract, but ultimately I wrote the play for class, which was like a 15-20 minute play, and then I sent that in for Teksmark. But I would love to like broaden it a bit, and if not, it would be quite cool for me if like if it could be a 20-minute, just a repeated 20 minutes, and then you have to watch it again. Yeah.
Or write another 20 minutes.
Yeah.
So we just do a little bit of a break, and I'm there. Like
But yeah, I definitely like, this was the whole process in one. This was yeah, the mother actually like at the end like walks away with the backpack, and yeah, so that was the, you are right in assuming that was very grafted, yes.
Worked very well. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah. Do you have any other hands? Cornelia has joined us again, so she can make her comment now. She wasn't here when we introduced her. And then Saki. So we'll speak to you, and then Diana will come to you.
I just had to go to the bathroom. Is that allowed here?
No, it was just a little bit awkward. So we said, Cornelia, you, and then you went, yeah.
Well done, so that was wonderful. I actually really like your idea to do it again, to repeat it, and then with just one small action to change the outcome of the situation. I like the fact that it's so heightened, and I think if you extend it, you might lose that sense of heightedness. If that's a word, I'm not sure. But yeah, I think well done. I also loved it when I read it. It felt complete and fresh. And I actually know doctors like this who smoke, and it's such a strange thing that they work all day to save lives, but they have this underbelly where they operate because they deal with trauma and death all day long and think that suddenly just going to be normal people again. So this idea of them standing outside and being so fatalistic about what they do, and with characters like yours who has to rely on a higher power to make sense of all of this, I think was really nuanced and multi-faceted.
Thank you, Cornelia.
And I think Saki. Do you have Saki? Did you have your hand up? We'll get the microphone to you. Just a question. Can this work in a real smoking area rather than a theatre?
Oh, yeah, besides.
I think so.
Yeah.
No?
Yes.
Would you be against it? Or
Yeah,
do you
can
want
we
it on
move
the
this
stage?
outside? Or
Yes, move it outside.
Let's just do it.
Right, I'm in. I'll talk to you later.
I also really thought that the dialogue is excellent. It's fact. But I've got a logic question. I don't have a baby, but I wouldn't treat the baby like that, and I would take the baby immediately. One of the doctors would take the baby probably immediately into some form of ER if the baby is dying. Obviously, they're not working in some form of reality, but I think in that logic mistake, in my opinion, is a huge theatrical device that you actually don't know if there was really a baby. That these young doctors are confronted with some form of life, and the choice that they have in terms of who they save and what they do and what is the priority and the hierarchy and all of that, that is a takes minutes more. But yeah, I think you should read a little bit about that baby hand.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it would work very well. Like, yeah, I guess it shouldn't have to be that literal. I guess like when they tell you kill your babies, then I kind of just like went for it and.
I have to think about that, but it's interesting, Saki. Yeah.
I think that's the point.
Yeah.
I love that irony of it. And
Yeah.
being confronted with something. No, please don't. I don't want to speak.
But you are speaking, so then you need to. So you must either choose not to speak or speak with the microphone.
Yes. I wonder, sorry, that isn't a different play. If this one is about doctors who, if it's literally life and death every day, and the most extreme or the highest possible stakes is then being confronted with something that has to fight between life and death. I do agree that someone will kind of run off, but I think that's why they have their tiff about like, what are the implications. So maybe that conversation should be heightened, or something should happen. But I think either taking the baby away or lengthening, and that's also why I think the play in its form now as a 15-pager or 20-pager is quite perfect. And I think either like repeating it and taking taking stuff away or taking a character away every time. So what would one doctor do at the end if he's being faced with it? Or you also spoke about possibly doing 5 different plays that are all about this theme. Yeah, I just think.
Yeah, one can do in the same hour. You can do this version, then your version, Sarki, and then.
But I want to just point out that they are engaging with the mother quite intensely. They are praying for, they're giving her money, they are caring for her in a very tactical way, a tactile way. And with the baby, they are actually totally disengaging. And I don't know if I don't understand it in the way I should, or was it saying something that I don't like?
I mean, like, well, just from my perspective, when you know, that scene in particular, it's when the ego comes into conflict with, I guess, the doctor's Hippocratic oath, and the ego and the desire to be right or desire to take control of the situation and be the savior, the one in charge, suddenly supersedes that responsibility. And at the beginning, there's no real conflict. There's a slight conflict of who's right with the mother, and you know, Alexander gives her money because she asked so nicely. That's why I give people money, and Mina is doing it because she thinks it's right. So there's still that little tussle of ego within that context. But when the stakes are raised to a baby, so is the reward, or so is the savior complex. That also goes through the roof, and that paralyzes them. So that tussles really between like the egos of the doctors, and I think that, like, to me, that's what the play like highlights there, is that that hypocrisy, that paralysis that occurs where you prioritize yourself being right over actually taking action. So that's how I made sense of that kind of conflict.
All right. Okay, now this, you cannot do it without a mic. So we're getting a mic to you, sorry. No exceptions. And Dian het ook gevra, sorry Dian.
Sorry.
Ons het 2 vrae.
I just want to say to Sarki's question, I think that the reason for me that they were so like rough with the child and not with the mother is that the mother is an established person, as an entity that like can she looks after herself on the streets, meaning that the doctors can relax now because this person has been through the most, so it's not her responsibility. But it's always interesting for me to see, because we assume that doctors are these like they work so fragilely with human life, but it's so fickle that if it's like, it's always weird to me how like doctors would treat like a child. When you go to the pediatric, it's like you're getting a drip now. Like, and then it's like, and they're like, wait a minute, it's a kid, watch. Like, it's just weird to me how they like see life in different ways. And the death being outside of the hospital, I think inside the hospital it's like, oh, it's a baby and what, but outside with the smoking area, it's kind of like, oh, so it's inside where they're doctors and outside where they're just egoists.
Yeah, and that's something that a company can also explore, obviously, all those kind of, how you play it, how you interpret it.
I just wanted to know, is it the homeless woman's baby? Definitely. She didn't pick it up, or...
We don't know.
Okay. Dankie, Nadia. Dian, en dan is daar nog een persoon saam opgewees daar? Nee? Okay, dan Dian is die laaste persoon.
Hello? Yeah. So my question was linked with Sarki's thing that he said. So my question is, with regards to your research, did you speak to doctors to ask them how they would react if they actually were in such a situation? And the reason why I ask is because when I write something and I speak to doctors or law enforcement or whatever, I usually have like an outline of my story, and then when I go talk to them, they usually push big holes into my story. But what happens then is that then I go back and somehow it sort of flips again. So just in terms of the question of why would they not just take the baby in again? Like, just the question I have is it a state hospital or is it a private hospital? Because if it's a state hospital, they would take it in. If it's private, like that's the question. question. Yeah, so, yeah.
That's the question. So,
Or
Yeah.
is this not South Africa? Well, I'm just thinking, like, there are ways that you can sort of just maybe go read a bit, or go talk to people, and that might actually...
but I think your question is, did you do research on this with doctors?
I did consult Dr. Meredith Gray. But like the season 3 one, so it was good. But I spoke to some doctors about it. Some of the Tiger Bird like medical students about what would happen. But I guess in my mind it was a private hospital, which is a very good point. Like could be explored some more. In terms of research, it was basically more about the kind of the doctors being outside of the protocol. I think if I were to highlight something in the play with regards to what you're saying, because I think it's very valuable, I think that I kind of want to take the doctors out of the protocol, out of the building, out of like what they would normally do, because as soon as someone comes in an ambulance and they're in the hospital, it's kind of like, okay, now we follow protocol, you fill this in, blah, blah, blah. But then when it's outside in the smoking area and you are the last people to see this baby alive, I think that it kind of becomes, I think that doctors sometimes slip up and we don't necessarily always see that part of them. We think that they always follow protocol, but it's a very interesting point that you make, and I think I'm gonna go back and see if I can find a private hospital to fund this.
But I wish we could continue we've got to continue the conversation. This is really the last one, but there is something that for me about it, not taking it too literal, there is something very, where you use the theatricality, where you use the kind of license of theatre to, So I also question, I'm coming from the other side, not to go too literal with this. And not to go into, and rather because you want to, there's a certain human condition that you can't,
But doctors aren't going to watch this.
Yeah. Anyway, but.
Yeah, sorry, it's a very quick comment. That's exactly what I wanted to say. Like, experientially, it was beautifully frustrating to sit here and be like, why aren't you taking them in? And I think that as a kind of an audience, a device for the audience can be good for engagement as well, because we're constantly, and it provokes discussion, I think, which is the cool thing about this. Yeah.
Okay, any comments from you? Last time.
Yeah, I think the doctors never do nothing. Their actions are all in conflict with each other. So they're all trying to do something, but they're all trying to do different things at the same time. And I think that's where this thing of like, it feels like they're not doing anything. It feels like they need to go in, but they're trying to go in, but at different times, or they're trying to do what they think is best. But they all are meeting, and the conflict lies in that they can't agree on what the best thing to do is.
Yeah, and I also think what happened here is that this presentation was so tight and concise, and that we're now on a different level of, they've only had 2 days to actually explore your script, and we're kind of taking it 10 steps further, where there's actually a lovely process that can still happen between you and actors and the director to solve these kind of things, which would be wonderful. This is great. Thank you, everyone. Sorry. Die volgende teks word genoem die contemporêre kunskomplot, en dit is geskryf deur Philip Tron. Philip, dis jou eerste teks vir die verhoog. Nee.
Inderdaad.
Wat is my daai te maak?
Baie dankie. So ek gaan begin deur eerlik te wees, die titel het na my gekom voor ek enige idee gehad het van 'n storie, die contemporêre kunskomplot. En dit kom af van, ek het maar my persoonlike juk wat ek so net met die contemporêre kunsbedryf. Ek mal oor ou kuns van Picasso terug, maar na dit vlek dit 'n bietjie rigting gegaan wat my baffel en bore. En die verskrik opgewonde maak nie, maar wat saam met dit gepaard gaan ook is wat met die kunsbedryf gegroei het in hierdie verskriklik dekadente ding waar ontsettend baie geld spandeer word op kuns wat vir my nie baie opwindend is so nou 3 oggend dan dink ek het geplot. En ook die idee van 'n komplot, ek het groot word op kinderboeke, so dit my dadelik opgewonde gemaak. Ek het nie geweet wat die komplot is nie, maar ek het gedra gaan lees. So toe lees ek maar 'n bietjie deur goed van hoe die kontemporêre kunsbedryf werk. En toen kom ik vinnig af op iets dat, of die blijkbaar wel bekende feit, dat kunstwerken in die contemporaire bedrijf baie gebruikt wordt voor geldwasserij. So ryk mense sal die kunst koop en dan weer verkoop en dan sal die korrekte geld mooi sal verskoon. Wat vir my baie opgewonde gemaak het, want ek het gedink na van die werke wat ek kyk, dit kan net moontlik money laundering wees, dit geen ander woorde. Vir my nie, natuurlik. So dit het my baie opgewonde gemaak in terme van 'n tipe wêreld om in te werk, maar ek het nog nie regtig 'n storie of 'n ding gehad nie. Tot ek gelees het onlangs, so ja, die idee is gesteel van die koerantpapier, dat 'n Italiaanse kunstenaar het actually 'n onsigbare kunswerk geskep wat is net nie sy verbeelding bestaan, wat vir baie geld verkoop het, wat my baie opgewonde gemaak het van Disney stories. So dit is 'n goeie plek om aan die gang te kom om mee te begin. Maar dit het nog 'n bietjie koppig vir my gevoel ek kan dalk 'n satire of 'n sketserige ding dit maak, maar nie 'n storie nie. En daai ding interesseer my omtrent ook net vir 10 minute. So in 'n ander vertrek in my kop het ek gewerk aan die storie van die verhouding van 'n kunstenaar met sy muse. Ek bedoel daai storie word elke jaar 100 keer vertel, maar nog steeds is dit my interessant en ek wil ook 'n beurt hê. So het ek net gedink, hoe kan ek hierdie tipe verhoudingsstorie waarvan ek baie wat my interesseer in 'n nuwerige manier gebruik? En toe ek dink die eerste ding wat ek dan gedink het is wat van as ek die muse, die dame, kunsjoernalis maak, wie nie net die kunstenaar inspireer in sy werk nie, maar dan ook in ruil oor hom kan skryf en 'n soort van kan skep en help bekend word en so. Dat sy soort van haar eie ding dat sy is nie net die model wat staan vir die werk nie, maar sy het haar eie ding. En dat sy so soort van hom help en hom skep en hom 'n persoonlikheid in die vers en klein skandaaltjies rondom hom skep sodat hy ook 'n bietjie interessant is vir die ander mense. Die waarde van sy kuns nie teenstaande. En ja, ek dink dit is amper soos 'n reverse Pygmalion ding waar sy raak verlief op die beeld wat sy skep van die ou waar hy haar skep. Dit is my oulik. Ek dink ek kan iets daarvan maak. Ja, dis basies waar die storie gekom het. So 'n storie begin met nou die en toe dan vind die kunstenaar eventually uit natuurlik dat sy kunswerke nie gebruik word vir geldwassery wat 'n bietjie 'n knak op sy ego bring soos dit sal. En dan sluit hy hom soort van 'n protes, hierdie onsigbare kunswerk geskep wat hy sê net in sy verbeelding bestaan. Dit gaan nie goed nie, dit gaan 'n bietjie skeef, want dan begin almal soort van projekteer en besluit wat in die werk aangaan, wat in sy verbeelding aangaan. En dan soos ons Matteus tot in word dit gesensor en dan mense word aanstoot geneem, dit is 'n lekker reaksie om mee te speel. En dan gebruik klomp opportunistiese mense hierdie geleentheid van hierdie klein skandaaltjie om soort van iets groot daai te skep. Almal wil hulle deel, soos die nuuskanaal waar ons 'n bietjie gaan sien, dan kry jy dis 'n skandaal, ons maak dit groot ding, dan kyk mense dan kry hulle advertensies en geld en lekker. En die muse, die kunstjoernalis en dit ook is 'n fantastiese geleentheid omdat jy sy verhouding met hom gehad het in 'n manier. Sy verstaan sy verbeelding die beste want sy ken hom. So sy kan vir mense sê waar dit gaan en dan sy ook 'n bietjie haar plek in die son. So die stuk wat ons gaan sien, dit is die eerste 10 minute van die stuk, so te veel konteks, meer as ek al gegee het, is seker nie nodig nie. Dit is basies die stuk waar sy, dis voor die TV-onderhoud, so sy gaan opdaag en hulle gaan haar voorberei vir die onderhoud. Maar eers is haar kort proloog deur 'n karakter wat hard is. En sy punt is, hy is iemand wat die onderhoud kyk, en hy volg die skandaal, en hy is soort van 'n conspiracy theorist, doomprofeet tipe mens. En tussen al die stories, maar ek het eintlik aan en hy droom sy eie goed op. En ons het die hele groot nagmerrie-agtige ding wat in sy kop aangaan. En ons gaan hom nou net een keer sien, maar in die verloop van die stuk is sy doel soort van elke nou en dan in te tree, en hy is soort van sy idee van wat hy dink regtig aan die gang is. En dit is nie vriendelik nie. So ek gaan nou die verhoog oorgee aan mense die dit eintlik verdien. Dat laat hom so. En dan gaan ek gou vinnig optrippel na die rekenaar toe.
Spits julle ore, strek julle oë, buk 'n bietjie nader. Die kontemporêre kunsbedryf is die hoer kapot hoerbruid van ons klanklose onderganklikheid. Hier, die. Kyk as jy kan kyk. Ja, kyk. Die nuutste kuns van ons bekende kunstenaar in ons grootste galery reeds teen 10.000 oorskot geoorskat en kyk net hoe lyk dit. Ja, niks ja. Nog klinker, nog klank, nog kakofonie. Nou, luister nou mooi. Nee, kom. Nie so vinnig nie. Dis nie net niks om ons niks te laat dink nie. Nee, dis 'n asprisse. Dis 'n ontwerpte. Dis 'n bedoelde ding om ons aandag af te trek en ons opperste opsprake opper te wek. Die werk, die kunswerk, die kunsmatige kak is geskep om keiser, kok van die kabaal en koning van die kunsryk se korrupte gekonkel en gekroek te bedek. Die knakster koop kuns by die kusvol en verkoop aan sy komrade, sy kaders, sy maats en koop dit dan weer terug om by sy veiling te veil en so die vuil geld van sy kiet te verskoon in publiek. En niemand knip 'n oog of kwaak 'n klein klankie nie. Maar die eintlike kopklont, die knoop in die komplot, is waarop hulle dit spandeer. In die kelder van die keiser se kunsgalery word daar wild geparty, en dekadensies versmil, en in donkere siekigheid, sekshandel, slawerny, bedorwe en verdorwe, diep dood. Ons wêreld breek soos porselein, ons wysiekinders verdwyn, en hulle kom daarmee weg! Ja, hulle kom daarmee weg! Terwyl ons boere boer, en ons hierbo kaai en koer en karnaval oor kunswerk, en snert is dit werk, en dis alles net konsert! Is dit nie dalk net niks nie? Ek wil nie soos 'n voelstander lyk nie.
As dit niks is nie, het ons niks. As dit iets is, het ons nie. So, dis iets. Wat dit wel is, weet ek nog nie. Ons het 'n vrou in lyn 2 wat beweer dat die ding haar voetelende naggings te gee. En 'n man op 4 wie op ons program die kunstenaar van plagiaat wil beskuldig. Niks was glo eers sy idee en hy het bewyse. Intussen is die minister van Staatsbemarking, Kommunikasie en Kurasie en Kultuur besig om 'n kommissie saam te stel om oor die saak te pyns en te besluit om te bepaal watter kaders om vir die amptelike komitee van die verwydering van die werk te betaal. Hoe jy niks verwyder nie, weet ek nie. Ek het die vaagste nie, maar dis 'n storie, dis iets.
Ja, hierdie iets gee my 'n ongemaklike gevoel. 'n Ronde holkol op my maag. 'n Onsigbare kunswerk. Verbeel jy 'n beeld wat nie bestaan nie?
Nee, dit is nie 'n beeld wat nie bestaan nie. Dit bestaan in die man se kop en sy verbeelding. Dis hoekom die vrou eers moet praat, sy het daaraan aangaan.
Ek dis deeglik. Ja, dis goed, ja. Het jy die hele boek gelees?
Meeste, genoeg vir die idee van die hoofidees.
En? Lees dit of sy sal speel?
Sy sal 'n bietjie hulp kort met die fokus, die ding lees maar bond, maar dis waarvoor ek is. Hou jy net by die riglyn en na die hanglyn vir laaste. Ons het 'n volle halfuur ingevul. Jy kan nie by die klimaks by die kar inspan nie. Help haar eers met haar deel. As ons dit reg speel, kan hierdie die een wees wat ons groot nuus maak. So 'n geleentheid kom net een keer in 'n leeftyd.
Ja, hulle sê ons kykergetalle kan maal 4 vanaand verwag.
Ek kan ons toekoms in jou kop sweet sien skyn, Boeta. Hy blink!
Wat? Jou lastige jy. Naas ook sal. Kom, ja. Spes met 'n droom gedroog. Maak dit jou wegkom.
En wat is dit dan nou met jou? Jy kon 'n hele boek oor my skryf, maar eers nou begin ek by jou spoor. 'n Gewete toer homself nie net op nie, hoor. Wat voer jy vanaand in jou mou?
Jy verveel my, Lukas. Ons is kwits. Sien hierdie as my laaste hulde blyk. Ten minste het jy 'n boekdeel gekry. Meeste ander is voetnotas of verdwyn. Sjoe!
En die boekding, is dit juis die volronde waarheid soos jy dit onthou, hè?
Ek hoef nie te praat nie, is nie hier nie.
En jy glo hulle gaan dit koop? Of is dit dan die verspokers van jou senuwees? Dat hulle deur jou storie gaan sien en dat jy tiet van jouself op die TV gaan maak?
Ek glo in wat ek sê, my storie is sterk en dis reg. Wie weet beter wat in jou kop aangaan as ek? En waar is jy in elk geval om die teendeel te bewys? En watter dop het jy opgekruip?
Dalk het ek ewe soos my beeldjie verdwyn om my hier in jou kopnes te skrob en te kyk hoe jy vir ou laas met my naam jou na die roem toe gaan
vergarsing, harlekyn, klaanskorp!
Christel! Och, dis wonderwerk om jou te hê. Is jy okay? Kan ons enigiets vir jou kry of
Niks vir my nie, dankie Dirk.
Goed. Ekskuus. Ander naam kennis, ek is die vervaardiger van hierdie sirkus en hier om jou te help. 1 maal by die boek. Maal by die boek. Kon my nie vir 'n oomblik van dit skei. En ons wil jou help om soveel as moontlik van jou storie daar uit te put. Maar ons is op die TV en ons het net 'n halfuurtjie en dis maar 'n pompie. En die beste sin so. Maar ons sal jou storie effens vir die onderhoud moet verwerk. Net om seker te maak ons kry alles belangrik in en dat dit vir al ons kykers sin sal maak, Shane.
Te veel voorbereiding suikie sous uit dit uit. Ek mos niks nie tot die journalistiek. Ek skryf stories in my slaapskamer.
Inteendeel, TV is nie tydskrif nie. Ons kompeteer hier met drama. Dit gaan ons juist help om jou storie te kan fokus en te vorm, sodat dit maklik in ons kykers se koppe kan gaan sit. Shame, hulle kan maar soos kykens wees. Mamma moet eers 'n bietjie van 'n kou. Vir 'n geskakering voel hulle veer.
Hier is dit nou, wat om te vergeet en wat om te behou.
So, die groot makkeer staan natuurlik sentraal. Dis waaroor ons hier is en waarom hulle kyk. Maar dit sal ons begin met dek in die begin, in die inleiding. So 'n bom onder die tafel situasie. Ons praat vanaand oor die beeld wat net verbeel is, met die vrou wat die verbeelding die beste ken. Wie vir ons deur die kinkels in sy kop oor die paaie van sy perversies gaan lei. Die saak is swaar weens dit en daai opspraak. Die publieke oog draai vanaand op jou en go. Babam, babam, babam. So, ons korte inpunt. Iewers om te begin. Die vonkie wat die vet laat skiet.
Voor ons verder gaan moet ek jou eers keer. Ek wil graag seker maak dat ons hierdie ding reg hanteer. Ek sit vanaand baie op die spel. Nie net bieg ek oorspel voor 'n nasionale gehoor nie, maar ek maak my naam betrokke by 'n nou berugte kunsmous. En moontlik veel meer as wat ons tot dusver weet.
En jy besmet die naam wat jy geskep het. Waar is die ek in die ding sonder jou?
Dit is goed. Hoe meer as op die spel sit, hoe beter vir die kyker en hoe brawer gaan jy lyk vir dit wat jy doen. 'n Martelaar vir die moderne tyd. So, die eerste skryf is jy wat oor Lukas se werk begin skryf. Hoe is dit nou weer wat jy hom beskryf het?
Mergelende martelaar van formaat. Mergelende martelaar van formaat.
En dan 'n proeseltjie van die beeld se verbeelde inhoud vir ons kyker. Wanneer het Lukas se verbeelding begin goor?
Want dit was 'n geleidelike insuig van invloed. Ryk en roem doen dinge aan die kop.
Geleidelike insuiging is boekgoed, nie TV nie. Geef vir ons 'n voorbeeld, die beste voorbeeld van sy sondes. Lukas was so pervers dat hy 'n uiterste.
Ja, noem iets waarvan jy self skoon is.
Die skepping van sy naakfigure. Die blou reeksbeelde byvoorbeeld.
OK, goed. Kyk, om te sê ek het hom geken is klein geld. Tensy ons nou in die ou sin praat. Ons het ons verhouding op goeie voet begin, professioneel, met professionele reëls. Ek het hom net gevolg en dit opgeskryf en gehelp om hom gesien te kry. Maar om te maak of ek koud was tot sy werk, sou ek lig wees. Ek was mal daaroor. Versot. Ek self het niks gedoen om my meer betrokke te maak nie, maar toe hy my nooi, was dit moeilik om te weerstaan.
Dis goed, lekker, nog!
Hy het gesê ek inspireer nuwe beelde in hom en dat hy my wou verbeeld en dat ek vir hom moet staan.
Moet staan is bietjie sterk. Ek het jou gevra of jy sou wou en jy sou wou.
Ek het toe reeds baie in hom belê en boonop was ek nuuskierig. Ja, het ek gesê. En van daar af toe die blou beeld reeks.
En die proses van die vir hom staan, het hy oortrap.
Toe, nee. Nie tydens daardie tyd nie, die sukses moes eers kom. Maar binnekort het hy begin draai. Hy het begeesterd geraak deur sy skepingsproses, selfs al hoe meer daaraan verdwyn.
Dis hom! Dis hy! Wie sit nou? En steeds was jy daar aan die ander kant van sy hand. En naderhand.
Ek het pop geword in sy palms. My skepsel het aan sy skepper gegee.
Nou het jy die kat aan die snert weet. Dis jy wat my bekoor het. Jy het self so gesê. Hy was net my instrument, het jy geskryf.
Jy het 'n missief vir Lukas geword. Weens jou het die beelde by hom uitgepeel en jy het daaroor geskryf. Potgieter en Kie. nou beskuldig as 'n skadu-syndikaat. Nou beskuldig as 'n skadu-syndikaat en tans ondersoek vir klagtes van korrupsie, geldwasery en geldwasery en nee, alweer ja, shit.
En Lucas, Skoonveld, enige idees?
Wel, ek glo dat hy wegkry. Sou jy as hy was gesig wys?
En die gerugte dat hy ontvoer kon wees?
Deur wie?
Christel, kyk. Ons het navorsers, ek weet. Ek weet dat jy by Keiser betrokke geraak het en ek weet dat daar bloed of ten minste merke op jou hande is. Ek weet dat hy baie invloed het en dat enige misstree 'n nekslag kan wees. Ek sê om jou te help om jou deel te vertel, maar dan moet jy my help om jou te help. Is dit moontlik dat Lucas ontvoer kon wees?
Dalk, maar ek is nie seker of dit is nie.
Maar kan dit wees?
Dit kan seker wees. Maar ek dink nie ons moet dalk fokus nie. Ek dink dit is
Net nog. Perfek. En breek vir advertensie. Hierdie mag dalk net my meesterstuk wees.
En great, sê die. Philip? So. Ja, hierdie shit nie. Enige van die kaas van my joint. Dis wel. Hoe lekker om julle almal weer op die hoog te sien. Wel gedaan. Hoe lieflik. Ek moet soveel energie. Hoeveel dae het jy gerepeteer? Hoeveel weke? 2 dae. Ook 2 dae. Ja. Alright. Ja, hoe lieflik om so lekker opsette en ja, 'n stuk wat baie het om te sê oor ek dink baie dinge wêreld op die oomblik. Nie net oor kuns nie. En nie net oor waar ons is nie. So ja, maar jou agtergrond, hoekom het jy besluit om hierdie in te skryf vir teater? Want jy kom meer uit 'n filmagtergrond uit.
Ja, so.
Maybe we should speak in English. Would that be better for Afrikaans, Engels? Is daar iemand wat kan ons maar Afrikaans? Okay. Enige taal wat jou pas.
Ja, ek sal goed herhaal as dit sin maak nie. Afrikaans is goed. Die hoekom vir teater, dit is maar minder dat ek die stuk vir teater wou skryf, is dat ek iets vir teater wou skryf. En hier is die idee wat saam met daai begeerte in my kop. Dit is maar dieselfde tyd sal ek sê.
Maar ja, en hoekom, want jy het filmstudie, né? En hoekom wil jy iets vir teater geskryf spesifiek?
O, dis net omdat ek mal is vir teater.
Okay.
En so ek gesê vroeër, saam speel, dit lyk lekker, ek wil probeer dit.
Okay. Alright, ek gaan dit ook maak vir, want ek weet hierdie was een van die evalueerders, jy weet, dit was 'n beginsteling van die begin af. Diaan, ons begin sommer by jou.
Ek dink met baie van die stukke wat ons lees, en ons lees baie, so jy kom op so 'n stuk en dan dink jy, dit gaan baie afhang van die spel. Ek was mal oor of ek wil sien hoe hulle dit gaan speel. En ek was mal oor hoe hulle dit gespeel het. Ek dink die woorde was daar, maar dit my in kap en daar is net vir my so snaaks. Want dit het so die wêreld van vandag vasgevang. Waar ons almal sit en kyk en dink, Why is no one saying anything? Dis wonderheid. Jy weet, and this was just such a wonderful send-up of that. Baie lekker sensiteit, baie lekker jong, baie lekker energie. Loved it. Baie lekker speel met woorde ook. Ja, it just had all of it. It had you thinking and it was nie swaar, so jy kon soos van indruk. En ek wil net hê julle moet dit push, dis waar jy dat jy weet, it's lovely.
Baie dankie.
Ja, ek dink ons gaan daai kant toe laat dit hulle daar bo by Tracy en dan ek gaan nie dit hardop sê nie. Maar ons begin met Tracy. Nee, daar.
I really enjoyed it, and I think particularly at this time, it was interesting. We read it at the time that the whole.
Just if you can just put the mic close to your mouth. Yes.
Better? When there was that whole incident with that artist who stole his artwork and said that was part of the art, and it sort of just fed so beautifully into that, the rise of NFTs. It just says so much about art, and as Dion says about the whole kind of cultural industry and what we value and how we value it, and the language in it was beautiful. And yes, you did a brilliant job of playing it off. I loved it. Thank you.
No, it's lovely to have something. Ja, ons lekker. Hoe was dit vir julle om daaraan te speel en daarmee te werk? Dink julle het hulle kan skryf?
Wel. Nee, dit was baie goed geskryf, uiteraard, en dit is lekker om 'n stilistiese ding te hê waar die woorde nogals belangrik is en ons lekker met woorde kan speel. En ja, dit was pret. Dit was net pret om deel daarvan te wees en Philip was baie lenient en baie geduldig en ons verstaan, ek dink almal van ons verstaan die styl en dit help want hy ons almal op dieselfde bladsy en dit maak altyd 'n verskil.
Okay, ek kan aanpas na Belalem ook, as Belalem iets wil sê, maar ja, Belalem vir iets, ek wil net geweet, die teks, is dit 'n volledige teks? Is hy klaar geskryf van begin tot einde?
Nee, ek van hom. Hy is nog in die proses.
So, hoe ver is hy?
Hy gaan op die 31ste Desember klaar wees.
Daar sal 31 Desember. Om middernacht, kan ons dit allemaal in ons inboxes verwag. Hoe ver is hy op die oomblik? Net van interessantheid, halfpad? Of is jy bezig met die hele structuur en...
Ja, kyk, die ding wat trek is, ek weet alles wat gebeur. Dit het ek, maar die rede om het miskien trek is om te sê van ek het al redelijk ver gekom in een weergawe en het ek redelijk baie goed verander. So dis daar stukke wat nog oorleef, maar stukke wat ek deurwerk. So is maar moeilik om te sê, dis 3 note heb ek het dus ja.
Belangrijk?
Nee, ek wou net sê dat omdat ons dit al was nie 'n hele teks nie, so net met wat ons gehad het en mee kon werk, was dit so baie en dit was nogal amazing om net in daai monoloog te begin en nie die paar lyne wat ek gehad het, maar net die condensed weergawe van hierdie uittreksel was net daar was so baie om mee te doen en dit was nogal wel gedaan.
I hope that like in sustained is. Dit is die groot vraag, kijk. Ja.
Hallo.
Ben je goed?
Hallo. Nee, ek wil dit, ja, die teks is baie interessant. Dit is nogal 'n lekker, interesting geskryf en dan daar's baie spesifieke ritme. Ek weet nie of ek dit altyd gekry het nie, maar ek dink ja, dit is nice om te speel. Ek dink dit sal even nicer wees as mens weer af van teks af is en heeltemal net kan fokus daarop, maar dis baie nice gewees om ook weer bevroeg te wees. En ja, dankie dat ek in die stuk kon speel. Dit is baie nice. Yes.
Je hoeft niet te zitten, maar het is lekker is.
Ik kan niet zeggen, maar is het aan?
Ja, zit zo met nabij aan je mond.
Ja, nee, dat was fantastisch. Ik was al gestrest na 2 jaar dat ik niet theater gedaan heb. En ik was al toen ik dingen leerde, ik speel geweten, hoe moet ik naar dit doen? Maar as good a writer he is, he's also a very good director, so ik voel dat ik ons allemaal bij gehaald. En ja, dat was fucking great. Dank je.
Liefde hier zo. Cornelia, ik is so blij jy is nog hier. Kan ons weer wat Cornelia te sê?
Hallo Philip, dit was my verstommend om dit te sien en te lees en omdat jy gewoonlik so stil is en hier is hierdie stortvloed van woorde wat uit jou kom, dit is absoluut ongelooflik geweest. En ek en Melissa dan net sê hoe lekker dit is om vir Wessel op die verhoog te sien in so 'n rol, dit is asof dit vir jou geskryf is. My studente wat hier is sal weet, ek is gefascineerd met die idee van manlike kuns wat gewoonlik in hierdie groot falliese beelde uitspeel, so Jeff Koons en daai styl kuns. En ek dink dit is wonderlik dat iemand 'n blyraar skryf. Ek weet dis nie presies waarop jy fokus nie, maar daar is 'n massiewe kunskomplot in die wêreld aan die gang met hierdie absurde pryse wat betaal word vir wie besluit wie se kuns is wat werd en die feit dat jy dit omkeer in dieselfde geld vir teater, jy weet die vraag oor wie besluit wat is waardevol en wat is die woord kuns werd en dis heerlik om op die verhoog te sien op so fyn manier geskryf. Ek is absoluut gaande oor die teks, baie gewerk.
Baie dankie.
Is daar hande? Ek kan nie lekker sien nie. Is daar iemand wat kommentare vra oor waar jy moet gaan? Wel, daar was die vraag. hoe gaan jy dit waar jy jy doen nie al waar jy gaan dit nou? Dit het nou klaar geskryf is.
So basies ja die struktuur van die stuk gaan ek sê maar basies in 3 bedrywe. So die eerste is die voorbereiding vir die onderhoud waar hy nou vir haar help net is dit moet so gaan en so, maar natuurlik gaan dit nie so gebeur nie. So die tweede bedryf is die onderhoud self wat hulle met al voer. En wat soort van gehint word in hierdie stukkie is dat hulle ook goed in hulle agtersak het. So hulle trauma baie om op in die onderhoud te kry, maar dat hulle eie van hulle om natuurlik die skandaal te skep en so. So die tweede bedryf is die onderhoud wat verskriklik gaan en kort geklik word. En dan die derde bedryf is die soort van die reaksie op die onderhoud, ander mense weer gedaai punt en dit pyl soort van af tot die voorlaaste toneel wat die veiling is nou van die kunswerk waarin waar dinge ook skeef gaan omdat die conspiracy theorist bietjie weggevoer word met sy drome en hy daag daarop en dit gaan goed nie. Maar dis soort van waar dit afpyl het. My gevoel is of my idee is dat hulle skep hierdie storie in die eerste bedryf. Dit word 'n bietjie gereg in die tweede bedryf en in die derde een rafel heeltemal uit. Dis so van 30ste wat hulle eis weergaans van die stories vertel met hierdie gaas dat dit eintlik baie mooi stil so niemand gaan kom sê kry.
Dit eindig stil.
Daar's 'n epiloog wat 'n terugflits is na beter tye, so dit is 'n in spite van
Ek vind dit is die meeste wat ek jou ooit praat het aan die ken. It's amazing. En is liefde dialoog ook. Kommentaar Saartjie? Saartjie se antwoord, love it.
Ek moet op die punt van die dialoog baie dankie vir hulle almal sê want dit is nie normale goed nie. Dit is vreemd om te lees en ek is baie bang dat dit gaan werk nie. So ek moet dankie sê vir hulle almal veral wel hulle met daai verskriklike ding aan die begin dat hy deur dit gekom het en nie uitgepaas het. So regtig
As ek geen vrae het nie, ons kan nie wag vir 31 Desember wanneer jy dit in ons inbox sit nie. Dankie, Philip.
07218357. Ek moet dit sê vir my stuur.
Dankie, baie dankie, mooi werk. Goed, volgende is Marie Boschlap met koning van die diere 10. Marie, wil jy voor die tyd gesels?
Ja, ek wil, maar ek
Maar jy is nie opset. Alles reg. Ons wag vir jou.
Dankie.
Want jy is ook regisseur van die stuk.
Dis korrek.
Yes, het is lekker om te sien mense drank uitpak. Voorbereid. Wat aan komitee as jy hom nodig het. Dit sal geen die tyd kan vol. Raam. Greg, what is that? The website's name, your website is? Okay.
Maybe you must speak while we wait, because there's a lot of new people here, and they don't know what it's about. So maybe just in the meantime, just maybe chat about that a little bit. That gives Marie a little bit of time. So this is Greg Cavallas, and he is here representing a very specific organization, and I'm going to hand over to him now to talk a little bit about that.
Thank you. Hi guys. So I'm here on behalf of the Playwrights Laboratory, which is a new online platform which aims to give a space for rehearsed readings of plays. How it works is that, and it's a fairly new organizational concept, but how it works is that we're building members and partners all over the world. And by members and partners, I mean artistic directors, producers, theatres, both here in festivals, anybody that's interested in producing theatrical work, creating a network, and then creating this online platform where plays can, or readings of plays, rehearsed readings of plays, can then be filmed, put on the website, and then all the members have immediate access to it, in the hope that people will then produce the work. I guess it's a little bit like what Teksmark is doing, but on the online space. There are already some really exciting partners. I mean, the Baxter's a partner, Carve just become a partner. I think Wordfear's is a partner. Yes, we've got some international partners, Shanghai, in London. So it's really, really growing. And what TPL wanted to offer in the Teksmark contest is to, at the end of this, pick one of these plays and offer a free online recording, a rehearsed recording, and then it'll be hosted on the website for free for 12 months. So just to give an opportunity for one of these pieces to then be hosted on the site. Membership's free. There's a whole lot of information which I'm not going to rattle through now. The website is theplaywrightslab.com. So I'm going to write that down because I've had that question a lot. We call it TPL for short, but it's theplaywrightslab.com. So please check it out, and it's open up to anyone.
And how does it work if you want to put if you've got a play, you want to do the reading? There's a cost involved, obviously.
Yeah,
or can you send in your own kind of recording?
Yeah. There are three ways to do it. Is you can approach TPL to rehearse and then record the reading and then host the reading for you. Or if you've got an existing recording, you can then send it in and then it gets hosted. There's no membership fee, so you can become part of Playwrights Lab for free, but there are some costs involved, obviously, around the filming and the hosting. But all that information is on the website. So please go and check it out. It's really exciting. And I think as we've all learned as theatre makers, the online space is not going to go away. Certainly this is the most important space, the live space, but it's about connecting as much as possible. So do check it out.
Thank you. That's very exciting. It's lovely to also, and it's also wonderful that it also creates a space where South African plays are then available internationally and can hopefully get more opportunities. And it doesn't matter what language.
Yeah.
You will represent all languages,
yeah.
And it will be with subtitles if necessary to make it accessible.
There's no parameters. And so one more thing I just wanted to say is the real focus is underexposed writing, so new writing. That's really kind of the whole driving force is to find new pieces and to put it on a much bigger platform and a bigger network, or a bigger network.
Are you holding a mic in your hand?
No,
it looks as if you're kind of holding, miming the mic. All right. Thanks, Greg. Hallo Marie.
Hallo Hugo.
Hoe gaan jou?
Baie dankie. Baie dankie dat julle vir my gewag het. Sure, okay. Ek wil begin weer te sê baie dankie aan obviously Teksmark en almal anders wat betrokke is vir hierdie ongelooflike geleentheid. Dit was vir my as 'n skrywer en teatermaker en ook vir die spanakteurs ongelooflik lekker om net hier te kon werk. So baie dankie daarvoor. Ek wil so 'n klein bietjie gesels voor die tyd en dan kan julle maar eintlik meer vra na die tyd. Ek wil julle nie nou verveel met te veel inligting nie. Ek hoop as ek Afrikaans praat. Die koning van die diereriem het lank in my gebrein, maar ek het nie regtig geweet wie hierdie karakters is nie. Ek dink die skrywers in vertrek sal weet hoe dit voel. Partykeer kom hulle, daag hulle net op en jy weet jy stap 'n pad met hulle, maar jy is nie heeltemal seker waar hulle gaan inpas in die groot prentjie nie.
En toe gebeur die pandemie en lockdown en alles anders wat ons almal besig is om te oorleef. En ek besef toe daar's miskien 'n moontlikheid om met hulle 'n pad te stap as te ware. Ek dink dit is belangrik om vir my te sê dat soos baie van ons tydens die pandemie het ons meestal al televisie gekyk en ek was besonder geïnspireerd deur die ongelooflike goeie dialooggedrewe TV-dramas wat op die oomblik in die wêreld, jy weet, op ons skerms is. En ek het ook vroeër hierdie jaar met Cornelia gepraat en vir gesê ek het soos hierdie behoefte om 'n play te skryf, jy weet, met mense wat praat, like a dialogue-driven play. En toe gaan sy wel doen dit. En jy weet, dis nog gemakliker gesê as gedaan. Maar on top of that, toe ek sien dat die Teksmark spesifiek op soek is na komedies, het ek, nog nooit dit gedoen nie, gedink, well, you know, might as well try that. En, julle sal seker maar besluit of dit gewerk het, maar dit was my 'n lekker stimulerende uitdaging en dit was ook so lekker om in die proses met komedie te werk in 'n rehearsal space verander alles. Ek voel ook dat dit is nie net, jy weet, straightforward naturalism nie. Ek praat nou spesifiek met toekomstige, hopelik befondsers en vervaardigers. Ek wil dit dinamies maak. Sam Shepard is my absolute held en hero. En ek het reeds begin om selfs in hierdie uittreksel te begin speel met daai soort surrealistiese ondertoon. Wat nie noodwendig stylisties is nie, dis actually ingebou in die script, as dit sin maak. Ek het ongelooflike bewondering vir daai soort tegniek en ek probeer dit nou, so kom ons kyk of dit werk. En dan, natuurlijk, ons is in die middel van die pandemie, ons is allemaal moeg daarvan, hoekom skryf ek iets wat gaan oor die pandemie? Wel, ek het gedink, ons het 'n baie interessante eksperiment hier gegaan as 'n kollektief op die oomblik. Vir my, tydens die lockdown het ek een audioboek na die ander geluister en onder andere het ek weer Jung se biography herluister, dit voor my 20's gelees en besef, oh, wow, this is exactly what's going on. Ons is besig om met ons shadow te deel, jy weet, individually, maar ook collectively. Ek dink ons almal het dit oral gesien, veral op sosiale media. Oh my word, mense kan hulle self nie sien nie, mense kan hulle self nie hoor nie. Dis die deep suppressed thing wat jy project op die wêreld en project op die pandemie en ek het begin om te speel met daai idee, like how do we talk about that without being preachy? En toe kom ek agter, kom ons maak 'n komedie oor mense wat daai mense verteenwoordig, maar jy maak dit vol rond en jy gee vir hulle 'n wêreld wat vertroubaar is, wat mee gerelate kan word. Ons almal is tog nou hier after all. Maar hopelik sal dit ons tog inspireer om met 'n klein bietjie meer deernis en insig en empatie na mekaar en die omstandighede waarin ons self bevind te kyk. Okay, ek gaan nou vinnig hierdie klein dingetjie lees wat ek geskryf het om net vir julle 'n idee te gee waar dit bly gaan. Die Koning van die Diereliem is 'n tragiekkomedie wat afspeel gedurende die eerste streng grendeltydperk van die globale COVID-19 pandemie in 2020. Ek wil vinnig 'n nota daaroor sê. So die play speel af early days, okay? Dus daai amper romantiese dae van die pandemie. Ons gaan vir 21 dae in ons huise bly. Niemand het geweet ons gaan vir 2 jaar in ons huise bly nie. So dis my lekker want die gehoor weet iets wat die karakters nie weet nie. This is all new to them. Dit voel amper soos of jy in 'n movie is. En my karakters is nogal geneig om te dink hulle is akteurs in movies. Veral my hoofkarakter, Jamie, is 'n dromer, man. Even as hy by die bar werk, dan dink hy's 'n character in a movie en hy het daai soort edge aan hom. So keep it in mind. Hulle het nie die agtergrond wat ons as 'n gehoor het nie. Dit is nog alles baie nuut vir hulle. Hoofkarakter Jamie, met behulp van sy binnekring, besluit om op 'n vindingryke manier alkohol te begin smokkel om te oorleef. Jamie en Fred is arm blankes. Hulle is nie eers werkersklas nie. Hulle is arm. Hulle bly in 'n bachelor flat in 'n tandarts se backyard. Okay? They don't fall into the echelon waar so of jou bymaak 'n vriend kan bel om die probleem op te los. Okay? Die karakters se drome, teleurstellings, sondes, oorwinnings en ook hulle menslikheid word uitgebeeld En ons sien ook hoe beide die ouer en die jonger generasie tydens hierdie Grendeltydperk geraak is. Die verbod op alkohol en sigarette is natuurlik die dryfkrag vir die handeling, maar die invloed van media, tegnologie, ons kollektiewe vrees vir die dood en die gevolge van isolasie wat volgens my die mensdom se bestaan onherroepelik verdraai het en ons soeke na ontvlugting wanneer alles skeefloop is temas waarna ek kyk. Ek glo die stuk kan, alhoewel dit humoristies is, 'n waardevolle speel ophou en hopelik kan ons sonder filters na onsself kyk en lag, want lag is medisyne en dan hopelik beter word. Okay. Die eerste toneel, die teks is nog nie heeltemal klaar nie. Ek gaan nie 'n datum gee nie, dit sal baie nice soos 'n ontwikkeling is gaan wat kan wees dat ek kan skryf en hoor hoe val die geld. Maar die storie is volledig ontwikkel. So as jy met my wil praat oor, jy weet wat is die begin, middel en einde, gaan dit nie nou doen nie, ons wil na die stuk kyk. Dis alles reeds uiteengesit en die paneel het dit ook ontvang. En wat nog? So hierdie is nie noodwendig die openingstoneel nie, but it's pretty early days in die play. En dit help hopelik vir julle as potensiële producers en die gehoor om 'n goeie idee te kry waarmee ek besig is. Baie dankie.
Wie sou dit nou kon raai? Maar is nou net 'n kwessie van dae, ou seun. 21 dae, die posman is dood. Hang natuurlik af van die spoed wat teen die Amerikaners of dalk die Chinese. Dit lyk my die Russe is nie meer in die equation nie. Wie sou dit nou kon raai? Fucking. Die vader behoort te weet om die plaag eers dat daai kommuniste te stuur die fucking skuim. Wel, dit hang natuurlik af hoe wie vinnigste die tegnologie bly ontwikkel. Dan is dit dalk slegs so weer. En ons slaan die jackpot uit, boetie. Global online solidification. The end of paper, die paper trail, pure sy moer. Die geposte brief se daar is getel. Bye bye, Mr. American Pie. Nangus Jerry. Sien. Ek was nog altyd die een met die vision goetjie. Toe ek destyds my eerste e-pos ontvang het, het ek al geweet dit sou nie 'n matter of time nou. Stryk ons goud. Big time. Maar jy sien my boetjie, die oomblik as jy nie meer 'n ding sy oorspronklike funksie verrig nie. Dan word hy 'n antiek. And metal turns to gold. My god man, dis soos jou ma destyds, daai sitkamerstelletjie, daai skreeulelike dingetjie uit die 1970s aan daai fancy baas van haar verkoop het. 10 keer meer as wat die fucking stuk kap werd was. Ek het my pap gelag, maar toe het ek al geweet. Dit al my voorspellings bevestig. My seelversameling is die goudpot aan die einde van 'n fucking lang reënboog. Wie het nou pensioen nodig as jy 60,000 seels vir 'n fortuin kan verkoop? Fortune smiles not only on those who wait, but also on those who are fucking clever.
Wat gaan nou aan?
Sy donder se kat.
Wat's 'n kat? Fuck it, pa. Ons het mooi gevra om sag te wees. Ek probeer 'n pa en 'n vat vir my shift vanaand.
Sy nie die fucking bure se kat.
Ons het nie nuwe bure nie, pa.
Maar nie soos reg langs aan bure nie, Jamie. Hulle was iewers in die straat af ingetrek het. Ek het die stad op het van sien verbyry.
Wanneer?
Ek weet nie wanneer nie, Jamie. Maar ek onthou dit. Ek onthou dit wat ek onthou. Ek gedink ek hou nie van die idee dat vreemdes hier in my buurt staan en neskop.
O, jou buurt.
Ons buurt.
Ons bly in 'n afgeskorte eenslaapkamer bachelor flat in 'n tandarts se backyard. Nog nooit regtig gevoel ek kan sê enigiets hier is myne nie.
Ons betaal mos hier.
Ons. Ek betaal die huur. Jy sit al vir wat? 10 jaar in daai stoel en wil fok alleen weet die hele dag.
Ek is 'n belegger, Jamie. Ek hou my rein. Ek moet gefokus bly. Ek hou nie met die semels nie. Ek is 'n versamelaar. Ek is 'n curator.
Dis moontlik die grootste woord wat jy ken.
O, jy dink jy is vreeslik slim, né? Maar wag jy maar net. My seelversameling gaan op die koerante haal. Oud Springbok skip se seelversameling opgeveil vir 'n fortuin. Voorbeeld van die burger en van die Engelse koerante, jy sal sien.
Maar 'n vrou wat na jou versameling wil kyk het gesê dis 'n besonders maar klein versameling.
Daai vroumens is 'n fraud. Sy weet niks. Ek het woord geklop wat sy gesê het nie. Ek sien mos wat kry die mense op. Met baie kleiner versamelings op die Antique Roadshow.
Die Antique Roadshow, papa, daai rerand is letterlik 10 jaar oud. Jy kan whatever, ek probeer slaap. En jy asseblief probeer 'n bietjie sagter te wees.
Jy en jou gedagslapery. Lui gatgeit, my paard sit.
Prys die Here daai idioot is al lankal dood.
Jy weet dat daai wag voor jou mond wakker maak, mannetjie.
Michael, asseblief werk ook en sit jou masker aan.
Vir wat? Ek is nie siek nie.
Want die president sê so.
Sy moe enige mens wat die volk se krikke verbann
is. Ons gaan binnekort 'n klein fortuin verdien as gevolg van die volk se krikke wat verbann is. So miskien moet jy ophou mou.
O, net omdat jy nou weet om warm geld te stel, nou dink jy ewe skielik jy is ryk.
Whatever, sit aan jou masker. Moet asseblief nie weer vir 'n halfuur praat oor jou fucking jip vervanging of iets.
Hey! How's my two favorite hustlers doing today?
Hey, Mr. Michael.
Afternoon, Fred.
Ja, dag. Fucking versmoorkous.
Always such a ray of sunshine, huh?
Okay, so I went to Discam, got the sanitizing bottles. Wait, check it out.
Yeah.
Sanitizer shots! Woo! L'chaim!
I love it.
We're in business, baby.
Are you almost done with the order?
I'm getting there, yeah.
What time is she coming?
5, I think.
How many?
Ek maak vir haar diere riem 100 ml sample set, one of each.
Diere what?
Diere riem.
My pa was 'n waterdaar. Hy sou my gestuur in die koue kamp nie.
I'm lost, sorry.
Like star signs. Astrology, Mr. Gemini.
Hy kan homself nie help nie, Michael. Sy ma het destyds horoscopes geskryf vir die local bulletin. Toe al kon hy nie genoeg kry van die idee dat die ganse mensdom met onsigbare naaldstring aan die konstellasie verbind is. Dromerig het hy snags na die dowwe sterre gestaar en hom verbeel hy sien die boogskutter se boog bo sy huis.
I see.
So we need star power behind this thing, right? So I was thinking...
Wait.
Yeah. Alright, go for it. Our sanitizer brand is called Zodiac. Each one of the 12 signs is code for the different booze that we sell.
Okay.
So, rum is Aries, right? Vodka is Scorpio.
Not bad.
Fucking genius, jy my vra.
En hoe groot is jou bottels?
Okay, 2 opsies. 250 ml, 10 tots, of 100 ml. 4 tots min of meer vir jou hand of broeksak.
Seer.
Ja.
Jy laat die klokkie.
Oh, guys, calm down. What's going on?
Say,
Who?
what the hell?
I'm at.
Wie praat jy? Dis Rebecca, vrou vir wie jy order opmaak. Shh, nou.
Hi, Rebecca. Jy's vroeg. Ja, ek's nog besig met jou order. Wil jy inkom?
Nee.
Alright, ek maak jou oop. Alright, okay, bye.
Ek wil nie raai duvet aan, kan ek ten minste my seels toe gooi.
Oh please, ons sien jou fucking seels gaan steel. Druk die knoppie, sy kan nie daar buite wag nie. Ek vergeet altyd van die fucking lockdown is.
Jy is hopeless te worried oor hierdie versekeringssituasie.
Whoa. You guys are super paranoid, my friend.
No, I'm not. Didn't you listen to the president's speech? No social gatherings.
This is hardly a social gathering. Besides, it's business.
Yes, boss.
Maak die hek op! Why are you so nervous? Is she good looking?
I mean, sort of, yeah, why?
Just curious.
She's a client, business, and older and married.
Okay.
So.
Ek kan nie onthou dat sy 'n trouring gedra het.
Oh, so she has been here before.
I mean, she came over for a drink one night during the first week of lockdown. I mean, she's the trigger behind the whole idea, right? Dit was iemand dat hy met haar gekom en gevra vir 'n bottel wyn en I've told you this. Where are you going now?
To use the bathroom, dude. Calm down.
Hallo.
Hi, ons is binne.
Hallo, so crazy. Hallo, oom.
Fred, net Fred.
Okay dan, Fred. Wow, Jamie. Wat kyk my loop,
Ek's nou weer, ek fokus net gou-gou. Sit maar.
Hoi. Ek het nie geweet julle kyk uit op 'n swembad nie.
Dis die bure se swembad.
Ag, jy weet wat hulle sê, water is water.
Ah, the booze lady has arrived.
The booze lady,
Michael, pleasure to meet you.
Rebecca.
Pretty intense face here you've got on there, Rebecca.
I was just trying to be responsible.
Ignoreer hom, hy's 'n doos. Anyway, ek is jammer die order is nog nie reg nie, maar ek het seker dit gesê ek kom eers 5:00.
Oh, sorry, Bokkie, ek weet. Ek was alleen en ons het nou die aand so lekker gekuier en toe dink ek dat ek net vir eens in my lewe spontaan wees met iets en wel daag net op en tada! Ek is jammer, ek het regtig nie geweet julle gaan gaste hê nie en ek dink ek is so gespanne wat ek praat het aan.
Net haal net daai mondkappie af. Gemens kan 'n woord hoor wie jy sê.
Nee, dis fine. I mean, Michael's nie 'n gas nie, hy's my business partner. Well, he's the boss.
My dad owns the hotel, and he said we could take the booze and take it from the stock room and sell it to make some cash on the side. It's hard times. I'm always happy to help out a friend.
Mens moet maar doen wat 'n mens moet doen.
Wat beteken dit nou?
Dis true, Jamie. Your secret is safe with me. Wel, dis nie heeltemal waar nie.
Wat het ek julle gesê?
Wat bedoel jy?
Ek het vir 'n paar mense gesê ek het 'n kontak en wel die gevolg is ek het 'n hele paar bestellings vir jou meneertjie.
Wat? Seriously? Wat van jou?
Baie dankie. Nee, wanneer jy klaar is met jou multitasking duties as alles, kan jy maar try. Sit vir jou Quinn. Ding nie doen ek vir Annie. Maar jy sal gaan help met afdaal. Kom sit hier. Dit is so weird om te kyk na daai tydperk. Dit is so dit voel lang so ver terug, maar ook so soos gister. Daai begintyd. Ja, maar die ander mense dit. Jy kan sommer hier so sit, ek sal staan. Wat die mense toe is. Die sit jy hier naby aan my. So, jy het baie mooi alles verduidelik, dink ek, van die begin. Jy weet, aan die begin, alles baie mooi gesit, dit is lieflik. Ek bedoel, it is comedy. Dis regtig snaaks. So baie geluk. En ek dink dit is fyn en lewe lekker kommentaar in tyd dat ek dink ons almal baie goed ek kan onthou. Dis nie so lank terug nie. Ek wil net weet of dit hoeveel van is dit die planne wat jy gemaak het gedurende die lockdown? Jy nou ek goed liggen self. Jy het dit daaraan gedink. Ja. Alright, ek wil baie gaan want ek weet weer eens die, ons kan sommer met Johan begin, want jy sit baie aan daar weet, dat ek vir jy nie, en dan kan ons aanbeweeg na Tracy toe en dan na Cornelia toe. Om die kommentaar te kry van mense wat alles gelees het.
Ja, dit is baie lekker dat iemand die evangelie is daar. You can't really ignore it. So to approach it in this sense where vir almal. Ek en is ding aan drankiges stories. Dat die net ek het nie begin daar. Ek meen ek was op vir mense wat nie genoeg sigarette gekoop het nie. Ek het op 'n rook, maar ek dink dis die een ding wat ek sou gehad het. Was baie sigarette.
Ons het nie geweet nie, Diaan. As ons dis nie asof jy geweet het jy moet altyd sigarette koop nie.
Ek het die ander wonderlike ding gehad dat ek my man het van alcohol, so ek drink nie as hy in die huis nie. So ek kon nie so dien raak.
So jy was die Jamie?
Ek was. Nee, so ek dink dit is 'n lekker manier om daarmee te speel en ek dink almal van ons sal weet. Baie is so collective memory. Soos ek dink. Dit is so nie het speel baie.
Baie dankie.
Dat ek een van die vrae wat ek graag sou wil oopmaak is nou klaar na Cornelia en Tracy ook geluister het, maar is die ding van, want ek dink ons praat baie oor, jy weet, wil mense, wil hulle nou bly oor COVID kyk, wil hulle bly kyk oor die tydperk wat verby is, en pandemie, will they come to something that sê dat jy weet, how do you produce it, maar toch moet die mense op 'n manier daarmee, moet jy theater gebruik, om ook daai tydperk te verwerk op 'n manier, en ja, en ons sal daaroor praat dat daar hier mooi.
En ek kyk so oor ek het nog gedink daaroor, want ek het gedink dis miskien iets wat sal opkom en ek dink dit is amper soos terapie. Jy weet jy gaan na jou terapeut toe om te gaan praat oor dit wat met jou nou net gebeur het in jou lewe sodat jy daar op 'n of ander manier helderheid daaroor kan kry of ten minste net kan hoor wat jy voel. So ek voel dit is wat teater nog altyd vir my persoonlik was, maak nie saak wat die onderwerp is nie. Dis 'n geleentheid om iets te sien waarmee jy kan identifiseer of wat jy heeltemal repel of wat ook al dan, maar in daai oomblik is daar miskien 'n geleentheid vir processing, ek is seker.
Ja.
En omdat dit op 'n ligte manier aangebied word, dis nie vroeg nie, dis nie ek maak nie die erns en die las en die ongelooflike trauma waarby ek myself insluit wat ons almal deur gegaan het op verskillende maniere af nie. Ek dink dit is net 'n ander invalshoek wat mense dalk kan help om asem te haal om te kan proses, as dit sin maak.
Dis met jy mense vnuik om te kom. Nie vir hulle sê, dis 'n pandemie, dit is gesê in die pandemie nie, is kan alles skes. Sonder te sê, sonder die woord pandemie of COVID te gebruik. Tracy. Tracy, just put the mic right next.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
The concept of staging a play during COVID, there's been a lot of discussion at art about whether people would want to watch kids about the pandemic. And I think this struck just the right note. And I think that it is, and it does, it's strange that it's only 2 years later, but it feels like it was about 10 years ago. And the characters, I mean, the Fred in particular, you know, when you said the characters were in your head for a long time, after I read it, you know, they really stayed with me. I just want to know that this character as well and how much it well.
Did you ask a question at the end there?
I said, did the collection ever sell and how much did it sell?
I mean, we actually haven't got to that part, how much it will be. But I mean, I do imagine a scene where, I could have said that maybe, you know, it works up to a climax where the stakes are quite high and they have like a shitload of cash. Am I allowed to say that on live? Okay. So imagine this sort of like toksak full of cash, you know, because it's a cash operation. You can't do this through EFT or whatever. And the paranoia, I don't know if you picked up on that already in the first scene, but it just sort of builds and builds and builds. And in the case of someone like Fred, you know, the paranoia has been around for a very long time. In the synopsis, we're talking about him. He hasn't left the flat for like 10 years. So he's been in a sort of perpetual lockdown for many, many years. You know, it's sort of just the cash you have to cook for him. And in that way, I'm also commenting on whatever is going on with the white Afrikaner man. But what's important about Zulani's character, Michael, you know, I don't know if you saw, but he was busy filming things. So he's in the script concept, he's a filmmaker. So he's busy with a documentary on Jamie and Fred during the pandemic. So he's sort of capturing this whole zeitgeist through these two very interesting characters. So I do imagine that it's going to be, they will sell it for high, you know, profit, and as a result, pretty much become criminals and become very afraid But and not to give it away, but I want to give it away because hopefully it will sell. Is that right at the end?
Jy kan klaar voorsit dat dit van YouTube af is.
Okay, no one, you know, and I believe if you really want to see it, you can. Ons almal weet gebeur en van Hamlet. So, right. So, right at the end, so you know, the contact, the network picks up, and it becomes quite an operation. You know, Fred is also on the telephone taking orders, and they just can't keep up. You know, in my mind's eye, I see like massive boxes with lots of sanitizer, empty bottles. And then there's this mysterious caller, and Jamie is quite a character, so he refers to people in code, like this whole code thing with the star signs. So he always talks about kaptein, yeah, kaptein is reg, kaptein, kaptein. And then right at the end, you hear a siren, and the rest of the people in the flat is convinced that someone is basically, you know, dat is was nie split op iemand, het op hulle gesplit. But Jamie is cool komkommer, and then it ends up being a policeman, captain, that has arrived at the flat to collect his orders. So it's sort of, you know, dit stuur af op dit. Yes.
Basically.
Correct.
Ek gaan nou vir julle, ek begryp ek kon ja. Wil jy dit sê, Antonie?
Nee, ek het nog iets herinner oor iets.
Okay.
Oor die papegaai.
Okay. Ons gaan nou weer die papegaai praat. Cornelia?
Ek wil vir jou geluk sê, ek het nie in my wildste drome toe ek hierdie teks gelees het, gedink, dis jy nie, want dit is nie jou gewone styl nie. En ek wil jou geluk wens daarmee dat jy jouself gedruk het, dan het jy anders geskryf. Dit is wonderlik, dit was so lekker verrassing om te ontdek dat dit jou teks is. En ek dink jy het 'n so absurde gegewe, wie het gedink, mense wat alcohol en sanitizer bottels sit, gaan die meest relatable teks van die jaar wees. En is ons allemaal vereenzelfdig geneer. Het is so mooi hoe jy die sanitizer wat die alcohol is en die alcohol wat ons wil drink en weet daai gegewe wat vir ons allemaal so relevant is, gebruik as dit 'n mechanisme in jou teks. Dit is wonderlik. En ek dink die pa-karakter wat die conspiracy theorist is so spot on vir wat ons ook ervaar met die pandemie. So ek dink jy het 'n ongelooflike timely teks geskryf met 'n absurde gegewe wat so relevant is. So net baie geluk.
Baie dankie, Cornelia.
Agree. Wil julle kommentaar lewer? Some commentary from the actors who's just worked with it.
Yeah, I mean, so I was immediately just drawn to the premise, I think, because, I mean, beyond the fact that it is tapping into something that we've all very strange that we've all experienced recently, it is also just has so much potential for comedy and hijinks and everything. And I think that when we stepped into the space and experienced because I mean, a huge animating force behind the action in this is just this physical over proximity that we experienced. And I think that when, you know, me and Andre were just kind of at loggerheads there in that very small but connected space, yeah, it was a really generative space, I think, to play around in. So yeah.
Andre, dit lijkt my dit word aan jou moet sê
Not much more to say around very limited spaces. Maar ja, daar is baie moontlikhede. Hoe langer ons repeteer, hoe meer laser daar is vir die karakters. Ek was altyd bietjie bekommerd dat hy 20 raak, maar ek dink daar is tog moontlikhede. Hy's wêreldwyse man wat baie gedink het. Tyd 10 jaar gehad om te dink oor die lewe oor die verlede. Maar ja, hy is 'n tipiese persoon uit hierdie tydperk vir ons, die heilige.
Dis so lekker om jou so ligte rol ook te sien in komedie. Dis baie lekker.
He just asked.
Yes.
He just asked your commentary about how your experience was working with the play.
So this was quite the departure from what I'm used to, in that I was born and raised in Zimbabwe, so I didn't grow up speaking Afrikaans and just getting the call and being told from the get-go, you know, I can understand most of what's going on, but we're going to be on board to help you understand and to cope and to go with the flow. It's been amazing. The immediate hook for me was how they got this process going with the sanitizer bottles and the alcohol, because I had the unfortunate task of graduating last year from drama school, and so many stories about my next door neighbors bootlegging, or the very fancy, very established restaurant next door selling alcohol on the low, and it was just bringing back all these memories of how we all managed to cope with the pandemic. I'm amazed. None of my friends came up with sanitizer bottles, but they made their plans, and it was really, really inviting and warm and welcoming to finally be in a space where we can talk about what happened, so we can start processing and understanding and sort of getting over the grief of what that whole experience was. And this has been absolutely cathartic for me.
Wow.
I just love Marie.
Marie, wil jy vir ons, is daar iemand steek hand op asself hier is toe vir hom? Ek wil weet oor die papegaai, so kom ons gaan na Wilke toe, dan kan ons vir Heike vra. Maar die papegaai, jy wil iets oor die papegaai?
Ja, ek kan net sê die papegaai.
Let's keep it in English. So
Yes, the parrot is a central character. I really tried to incorporate him, but we didn't have time for me to record parrots. So, Sagraisi, he represents the good old days. It's that voice that sort of comes through every now and then of the world we left behind, and we didn't even have a moment to anticipate that, because as you know, parrots memorize what their owners say, so it's almost like this voice just echoing from the past, you know, like he would say things that sort of make you feel uncomfortable, you know. Parrots say things like, okay, bye, ons gaan nou, of ons gaan nou lekker kuier, and you know, that sort of things did not happen anymore. So I would love to have him as a voice that's very present, as a character that's alive, yes. Oh, and he gets killed right at the end. It's important because that is sort of what happens with all of us. Hopefully everybody has given up on the good old days now, right?
Welcome. Hi. Marie and I spoke about her play a couple of days ago, and she mentioned something very interesting, and you phrased it much better. What I'm going to do now. She said, we all turned to criminals, or I did, at least, during lockdown, because all of a sudden... It was just you, Wilkin. Yeah, no. What are you talking about? All of a sudden, everybody had a dealer. And...
No, you had a dealer, Wilkin.
Okay, all of a sudden, I became a criminal, and then I had a dealer, and then you could find me one day, and you said, no, that is an interesting concept, because we...
I remember what you said. So I think what I said to you was, yeah. I find it very interesting to observe people, especially on social media. I'm a very good observer, not so much a participator. And it's been so interesting to see how people are so self-full-on, and they're so like filled with my ideas, the right idea, and they're very like upset about corruption and all of that. But in the same breath, like very, very few people, maybe Dion, because she had a lot of stock and she doesn't drink alone and all of that, didn't, during this period, eventually turn into some sort of a criminal, because we all had to break the law. And I remember walking...
Don't you include me! Don't look at me!
Yeah, so you're right, Wilkin. I do also want to play with that idea of how do we turn, once again, it's that shadow thing, how do we turn the spotlight towards ourselves and go, hey, maybe I should just take it a little bit easy on the guy next door, because technically speaking, you know, yeah. Is that what you're talking about? Yeah.
Ek love hierdie big sessies van almal wat nou criminals is en op YouTube sit en sê we were criminals during. Hulle gaan julle vervolg. Okay.
Hello, Marie. Thank you very much for this text. I want to, I really want to congratulate you, and it really made me very excited. Because, I mean, we're all talking now about the pandemic, but this is not a piece about the pandemic. This is the pandemic as vehicle. This is a piece about loss. This is a piece about desperation, all sorts of things. So many layers. So I really appreciated the, yes, there's comedy, but then also the deep pathos. I mean, I had a moment when the evening was talking about the dierering and what the Irma said no. Whatever the one was, Yes, Sagittarius. So it's just that magic realism. You said you're pushing for that. I really want to say go for it. And it's so very Sam-Shepard.
Thank you.
Where you have these very, very, very salt of the earth people, but then with these huge dreams and aspirations. And that contradiction is what's making it so deeply, deeply moving already. And I think you can't achieve that without the comedy. But the comedy is so rooted in reality. Thank goodness, no gimmicks, no tricks, just very real. So congratulations and thank you. I'm very excited to see how it pans out. You must finish writing it.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
And I don't think it's a problem at all that it's pandemic related. I think we're desperate to hear stories about people in isolation, people, because we are so traumatized by it. I was so happy this week just to see things happening on a theatre stage again, you know, so people I think will be quite happy to come and listen to stories. And then but it's not, it goes way beyond the pandemic, and then just what's happening in the country at the moment with people being, so many people so broken and whatever. And that is so essential to also review.
Oh, thank you very much, Bayan.
I do. Is there someone with commentary and questions? Just raise your hand so that Loretta can come to you. I just want to. I'm going to play a little bit of devil's advocate now. I'm wondering about the title.
Yes.
And I wonder, and I'm asking this because it's always a struggle. And I know now I'm kind of putting my producer's hat on. So two things from the audience, especially. Firstly, do you think people will come to a play if it's marketed, even if it's a comedy? If it's marketed as a pandemic or a COVID play, that they must kind of invite them to relive that in some other way. So that's my one question. And my other question is the title, which is Koning van die Diererim, which is a beautiful title, but Diererim is it's not such a common word. So it almost sounds. It might sound heavy. I'm playing devil's advocate here. So my question is do you think when you're dealing with comedy, and is this something that we often deal with, choosing the right title to kind of market the play? If you want people to come and watch it, do you think something like that is alienating to an audience and that they will be welcome because you've seen it, you know it's funny, you know it's light, but will the audience perceive the title as light? So I'm playing devil's advocate. So just pandemic. Will people come to a play that is about the pandemic? So Akia's got commentary there.
For me, one of the interesting things about the pandemic is that people tend to think of it as one period, and it's not. We've been through almost 2 years of different stages of pandemic. And we're not going to start making sense of it if we treat it as one period that was exactly the same. So I think there's a lot of humor that we still need to explore in an attempt to make sense of what happened to us. So I definitely think that people afterwards will want to reflect in some way about what happened to us and what happened to the world and what changed. Because when we move out of this, people need to change more. Nothing is going to be the same. So I think it's interesting, and I agree with you that the title is probably not as commercial as it can be to promote a show that can be very commercial, very commercial.
See, we're talking about an absent festival meet. We want to and need to sell tickets.
But obviously also there was Koning van die Diererim, so there's also it's calling upon all kind of plays in the past, in the recent past. But Diererim is an archaic word. It's a beautiful word. But
I love the word.
I think if you ask people what it means, probably 10% will know.
Yeah. Margarita's got something to say there. Thank you, Saki. What is the other word for diererim then? In Afrikaans? In Afrikaans. Daar is nie 'n ander naam nie.
Dit is die woord.
Hallo, ek het dit ongelooflik geniet. Dit is regtig lieflik. Baie dankie.
Dankie.
Diererim is my 'n lieflike woord. Wat ek nogal daarvan hou is juist dat jy 'n bietjie uit die gewone uitgaan, bietjie waag met ietsie anders. En juist dat jy 'n ander woord gebruik dat mense geforseer word om miskien as jy nie die woord ken nie, miskien dit na te slaan. Jy weet, en wat my so lekker is.
Jy het baie hoop vir mense. Dis baie mooi.
Mense wat theater gekom, moet soms self net 'n bietjie moeite doen. Jy weet, wat my so lekker is met Afrikaans, wat my so belangrik is dat mense deesdae net bietjie meer moeite ook met Afrikaans moet doen. Jy weet, dat 'n mens dalk nie dit is so maklik, ek sien ook hierso, jy weet die eerste ding wat mense doen is net, ek is ook nie van die naartrek tipe nie, maar ek weet dit is heeltyd Engels, baie van die akteurs, jy weet, dit is my so lekker dat jy gesê het, kan ek begin om Afrikaans te praat, jy weet, dit voel vir my, ja, ek bedoel, daar is sulke pragtige woorde in Afrikaans, jy weet, gebruik dit ook, net soos mens pragtige goed in Engels gebruik, diereriem is 'n lieflike woord, jy weet.
How about we make a dierenriem hustlers? You know, you can always play with dierenriem something else. It doesn't have to be quoting funny dier. Okay, certainly not. You know, I think if you just bring in the comedy and I mean, you know.
It's sad that we actually have this conversation because it is beautiful. But the thing, the goodness from your struggle is that ultimately we need to, and Marguerite, dis lieflik dat ek dink dat die mense gaan dit opsoek. People want easy, they want to see a title and they think this is going to be funny. And ultimately our job is to get people, because we know this is good, this is funny, or it's a beautiful serious piece. And our biggest challenge is how do you get, I mean, and I would love to hear Fahim's comment on this because he's the marketer of the Baxter Theatre, but we want to get people in to see it. That's ultimately what you want. And I think sometimes we choose the wrong titles, we make it too difficult for people, and I agree, I mean, we've got a responsibility towards languages, etc., to use beautiful words and not shy away from it. So that's why I'm saying I'm playing devil's advocate, because I usually choose the wrong title because I love the title, and I also want people to go and look up Dierenriem, but they don't, and they won't.
Nee, ek verstaan wat jy sê, maar as mens miskien sê dis 'n komedie.
No, it doesn't help that you actually describe that it's really funny. It's the funniest thing you'll ever see in your life. If they don't like the title and if the title doesn't sound funny, maybe I'm wrong, but then they don't come. No, I'm sorry, it is just a challenge. And we've got Fahim down, there, right there. Let's just take it from a...
I just want to say this could be like a cool part of the play. Fighting over like what they should name the business. If he knows what dierenriem means and he doesn't.
I think you did say that. Yeah, he said our sanitizer brand is called Zodiac. So he doesn't call the Zodiac, he doesn't call the brand dierenriem, but he talks about the dierenriem because obviously his father represents that kind of vocabulary. So I think Zodiac's pretty relatable, Zodiac sanitizer, and then you order according. So it is already in the mix, is what I'm saying. Yeah.
Yeah, and Marie, I'm using this just as an example for many other examples of a title, just as an interesting conversation.
Yeah.
So it's not because I'm not saying you should choose it.
I would like to know what Fahim says from a Baxter point of view.
So Fahim, yeah.
It's more from a marketing point of view. Your default on stage there with dierenriem hustlers for me was absolutely fabulous. I think that it really encapsulates everything and it doesn't create confusion. I had no idea what dierenriem is. I had to ask Heike next to me, and it did sound serious. And I think there is a point where you don't compromise in terms of what the content is, but the content describes what I think that title should be. You take it away from what we are seeing by giving it a more sort of formal name. I also want to go back to Marguerite's point. I think it's essential, Marguerite, that we realize that this is a Teksmark for not only Afrikaans. It started out as something like that, but there's a strong push to be able to incorporate other languages and things, and we should be able to feel free to speak in the language that we prefer. And it's lekker to have that mix of it, and when people kind of speak the combinations of those, yeah. But yeah, I think you've been on something. By default, yeah, the angels are above you there somewhere. I like it a lot.
We like your stepstools, and we're going to Saartjie. You said something about that the time is. Jy het gesê oor die tydperk en dat die tydperk nog verby moet gaan. Daar's verskillende tydperk waarna ons teëgaan het. Is the time right? Jy weet, so my vraag is, bedoel jy that the time is not right yet, of is ons nou in 'n tyd dat ons moet begin? Ek wil net clarify, skus, ek wou dit actually vra net nadat jy gepraat het.
Ek weet nie, ek dink maar nie.
Ja.
Dat ons sukkel om sin te maak wat nie by ons aan die gang is. En ons kyk vas na 20 maande van hierdie. Terwyl daar wel baie tussenin in die tyd was wat ons weet. Daar was tye waar daar min inwerkings was, daar was tye waar daar akute, daar was tye waar daar gestudeer het, veral in die eerste week was dit eintlik relatief onnodig. In 'n sekere sin in Suid-Afrika 'n lockdown te gehad het, maar daar was ook tye waar mense verskriklik baie siek was en doodgegaan het. En trauma, dit was oral. So jy is oral gekonfronteer met trauma, en dan is daar trauma van verlies en dan is trauma van die slaapsous dat ons alles wat almal nodig het om te kan leef, wat met die stuk moet gaan. En dan is ons die trauma van die geweldige onzekerheid van wat voor lê. En ons is so vasgevang dat ons glad nie terugkyk oor wat dit is. Ons is so gefokus op wat volgende kan gebeur, dat ons nie daar aandag gee wat die nuances was van die afgelope 20 maande. En dit is ook nie verbaar nie, dit lyk terrible to us.
But maybe this could be the way to start dealing with it. I mean, immediately. I would love to see this whole film as a whole comedy. Yeah, absolutely.
Ek wil eintlik dan by dit sê, dit sal seker dan afhang van of jy wil fokus op in die eerste 21 dae. En as dit dan so opbou dat hulle topsakke vol cash het en boxable sanitizer bottles, is dit 'n 6 maande arc. Is dit dat so uitrafel, sien ons later the character with the phone to do, it's like something I didn't deliver a few years ago, but if you use the phone and project that to show the Zoom, there was a great need in lockdown time where a modern day Zoom is like a seance where there's someone there immediately with like bad connection. So like all the commenting on all of those aspects of it. Is he also a smoker who has to make a plan? It doesn't have to become a farce, but I think the options for what you can do and the comedy relies on what your arc is.
I'll have to go back, but when I started to work on the script, I had the idea that we will probably take it to where the cigarettes finally came back. Because that was sort of the first time they opened the doors for, alcohol still stayed out of the mix for quite a long time. So luckily, for the story's sake, but I think we are definitely looking at, I think we said something in rehearsals about we'll probably be able to even get to that like Christmas tunes on the radio, that kind of thing. Because I don't know if you remember, but that first Christmas was really somber because you couldn't go to the beaches or anything. So it will probably, go into that period. So it's literally the first 6 months or 5 months, as you said.
Yeah, because if alcohol is their way, if you're also looking at like very, very poor Afrikaners, and if alcohol was their way of actually going forward in life, and suddenly the alcohol laws are over, like you can trade again, you can go buy again, what does it do to the characters?
So we will not go into that. So we will finish with them before they open the floodgates again, basically. Because I think that's what makes it such an interesting period in time, is no one knew that it was actually not going to be a 21-day window. They were thinking, okay, quick cash, right? And then it ended up being like, oh, big money.
But the bottom line is the parrot dies.
The parrot dies, yes, unfortunately, because die goeie ou dae is nou verby.
Marie, dis 'n fantastiese plek, baie geluk en baie dankie aan jou.
Baie dankie aan jou. Ek wil as ek mag, die absolute A-span. Dit was ongelooflik lekker om saam met julle te werk en ek sal saam met julle sanitizers.
Thanks for Ons tweede laaste stuk vir die dag is Mercy Kandemeyer se staan uit die water uit. Mercy, is jy reg? Laat net maak gou vir jou die mikrofoon skoon. Sanitizer, jy net kragtig. Gee oor aan jou, Mercy.
Goeiemôre, my naam is Mercy Kandemeyer. Staan in die water uit handel oor Rebecca Klaassen wat uit Engeland uitkom vir haar ma se begrafnis. Haar ma, kan dit 'n bietjie af asseblief, sorry man. Haar ma, Nonnie Klaassen, is saam met Esma Joubert in 'n karre-ongeluk dood. Rebecca en Nonnie woon al vir meer as 20 jaar by die Jouberts, waar Nonnie as inblyhuishulp werk. Esma Joubert word oorleef deur haar man Derek en hulle dogter Sandy. Ek is moeg van stereotypiese stories oor wit families waar bruinmense as kantkarakters speel. Die tyd daarvoor, die tyd is lankal tyd om die gesprek op sy kop te draai. Dis 2021. Ek weet ek hoe ek so nou. Woe! Dis 2021, die toneelstuk speel die middag na die twee begrafnisse af. Die Jouberts woon in 'n mooi, veilige, wit, hoër middelklas buurt in Kaapstad. Derek en Sandy dink Rebecca is by hulle huis na die begrafnisse om saam met hulle te rou. Eintlik is Rebecca net daar om haar ma se besittings te kry. Vandat Rebecca regte in Engeland begin swat het, die wêreld meer gesien het sy baie tyd gehad om te dink. Sy het onder andere gedink oor haar ma se lewe by die Jouberts. Hoe dit vir hulle gevoel het om dikwels die enigste bruinmense in 'n geselskap of 'n groep te wees. Rebecca is op 'n missie om uit te vind wie sy werklik is. Sy het ook onlangs kontak met haar pa gemaak, wat sy gedog het lankal dood is. Derek en Nonnie het 'n vriendskaplike verhouding gehad. Hy weet goed wat Rebecca nie weet nie. So die dramatiese vraag wat my skryfproses gelei het is, wat weet Derek? Hoe gaan Rebecca reageer as sy moet weet wat Derek weet? En kan Derek en Sandy werklik insien dat Rebecca sukkel met haar identiteit? Staan in die water uit beteken om pad te gee of om te ontken?
Jy lyk goed, Rebecca. Lyk asof jy oor see se water jou goed doen.
Dankie.
En het jy alright gevlieg?
Ja, you're alright.
Is goed. Is goed.
Ek het sop uitgehaal vir later. Ek jy moet bly vir
Ja, bly asseblief.
Ek kan nie bly nie. Ek wou net my ma se goed kom kry. Bly maar ons het jou gepat. Bijna 2-3 jaar laat gesien.
Jy is meer as welkom.
Ek kan nie bly nie. Ek gaan terug Engeland. Nee, ek gaan vir 'n paar dae Fort Beaufort toe. Ek het dinge om uit te sorteer.
Fort Beaufort? Wat gaan nou Fort Beaufort maak?
My pa bly daar. Ek het nie geweet. Jy het geweet my pa leef nog nie.
Hoe het jy hom opgespoor?
Hy het my actually opgespoor. Iemand het vir hom gesê my ma is dood en toe kontak my broer my. Tens had ek die hele familie in Fort Beaufort wat ek nog nooit ontmoet het nie.
Hoe weet jy dis waar? Kan jy hierdie mense vertrou?
Wat bedoel jy?
Bedoel jy al die jare? Jou pa is lewendig en laat nou eers van hom hoor, dit is net 'n bietjie vreemd. Is hy?
Is hy wat? Wat sê jy, Derek?
Rebecca. Jy is soos 'n kind vir my. Ons is familie. Ek gee om oor jou en ek wil nie hê jy moet iets... Ek wil nie jy moet in iets instamp wat gevaarlik kan wees.
Dankie. Maar jy hoef te worry.
My pa probeer net help.
En ek waardeer dit. Maar ek weet waarom ek besig is, jy hoef glad nie oor my te worry nie. Ek soek net my ma se goed, dan moet ek by.
Sure.
Die vlug nie gou. Kom eens eens vast. Huh? Wil jy nie net 'n bietjie saam met ons, 'n tydjie saam met ons deurbring nie? Ons pas my vrou en jou ma begrawe. Hierdie is nou 'n tyd vir familie.
Familie?
Wat? Het ek nou iets verkeerd gesê?
Maar jy word familie by ons vandag.
Dit is wat ons is.
Ek wil nie hieroor praat nie.
Susanne, kom ek maak vir ons tee en sit ons rustig. Ons hoef nie vandag te praat.
Ons kan nie die dinge onopgelos. Laat my, as dit die begrafnis is wat jou pla, dan sê jy vir my. Ek het my bes probeer om my vrou en jou ma afskeid te gee wat hulle toekom 'n dag wat hulle lewens vier. Om jou daar te kon hê was 'n seëning. Uiteindelik is die familie weer met mekaar, al is dit onder treurige omstandighede.
Ons is nie familie nie. My ma het vir julle gewerk en dis dit.
Jy en jou ma het meer as 20 jaar hier gewoon. Jou ma was meer as 'n werker. Ek kan nie lewe sonder jou en jou ma indruk nie.
Miskien moet ons net vir Rebecca kans gee om te rus. Dit was 'n lange dag.
Moet my asseblief nie verkeerd kry nie. Ek is dankbaar vir julle, my ma was ook. Jy het nooit reg in ons belang gestel nie. Het jy ooit probeer om enige van my ma se vriende of familie na die begrafnis toe te nooi?
Ons het iemand se kontaknommers gehad.
Dis nie 'n verskoning nie, ons harde probeer. Weet jy hoe dit voel om van jou ma afskeid te neem? Dis 'n klomp vreemdelinge.
Jammer. Ek het nie geweet jy voel so sterk vir my.
Jy het nooit gevra nie.
Dis jammer ek was so. Ek was net lank weg en so. Onthou jy ons altyd in die park gespeel het? Jou ma as ek 'n swaai gestoot het. Ek verkoop ons waarvoor ons al koekies gebak het. Kersfees om ouma en oupa op die plaasdam. Onthou jy die plaasdam? Ouma het elke Kersfees vir ons elkeen 'n Kersfeesstry gebrei, Becca. Maar 2 kleinkinders, ek en jy. Toe ons ouer word, en beide keer toe ons pappa se bakkie teen die muur vasgery. En mamma vir ons gekader het. Ja, maar op so gebeur dat pappa nooit moet uitvind. Wag, ek dink ek het nog 'n Kersfeesstry iewers. Ek sal dit soek.
Ek onthou. Ek onthou kom my ma elke Kersfees alleen moes agterbly. Op daai stadium het ek maar nie geplan nie want ek het nie van beter geweet nie.
Dis jammer. Wat kan ek vir jou doen?
Ek soek net my ma se goed sodat ek kan gaan.
Bly nog net 'n aand asseblief. Ek kan nie nou gaan nie. Ons het nou te veel gesê. Ek kry die gevoel alsnog.
Derek, ek het hierheen gekom om op goed te praat nie. Nie vandag nie. Ek het by die afgelope ruk tyd gehad om te dink. Verstaan my asseblief mooi. Ek is dankbaar vir julle. Julle het vir ons 'n beter lewe gegee. Maar ek weet nie wie ek is nie. Dit is omdat ek hier in hierdie huis gewoon het. In hierdie buurt, ek was na hierdie skole toe. En skielik was alles rondom ons wit. Ons was in die wit lewe ingeforseer. Die bure was wit, die skole, die park, alles.
Verstaan. Ek het al baie daaroor gedink hoor hoe julle moes voel.
Dit asseblief nie maak asof jy moet verstaan nie. Jy praat oor familie. Watter familielede slaap in 'n buitekamer terwyl daar 2 ekstra kamers in die huis is? Wie het hulle familielede vir hulle meneer en mevrou noem?
Ek het vir Nonnie gesê om die meneer en die mevrou te laat staan. Sy wou nie.
Jy mis die punt.
Wat is die punt?
Ons is in diens geneem en dis dit. Julle het nooit in ons lewens, ons agtergrond, ons kom vandaan belang gestel nie. Hulle sê self dan wat familie nie doen.
Julle beteken vir ons meer as dit en jy weet dit. Al die jare woon julle hier, ons betaal jou skoolfonds, ons help jou aansoek doen vir beurse, ons stuur jou oor see om te gaan swat.
En dit wat kos? My ma is van haar weggeneem. Sy moes versand groot maak. Maar wat van my, hè? Wie moes my grootmaak?
Connie het nooit gekla nie.
Toe sy jou op haar heup en rug begin grootmaak, moes ek af. Ek het aan my ma se som getrek om 'n aandag te kry, maar jy het harder geskree. My sagte hy is uitgedoof. Wat kon ek doen? Ek was 'n kind, Sandy. 'n Kind wat 'n ma nodig gehad het.
Sy het nooit gekla nie, as ek geweet het dit blaar sou ek dalk.
Sy het nie gekla nie, want sy het nie die woordeskat gehad om te kla nie.
Nou vat jy jou ma baie vlak en jy weet dit.
Nee. Terwyl jy voor in die huis was, het ons wat agter 'n skoeneboksie was. In mekaar se spasie, ons kon kommunikeer met net ons oë. Een kyk en ek het geweet hoe sy voel. Een kyk en ek het geweet wat sy wil hê. Ek soek net my ma se goed, dan baie ek.
Nee! Laat Rebecca alles van haar bors af kry. Duidelik is sy vandag hier om ons die vat kan haar verhaal te maak. Maar dit op die dag wat ek my vrou moes begrawe.
Spaar my die victim mentality.
Victim mentality. Jy is die een wat hier invals en ons beskuldigings begin rondgooi, hoe anders jy nog altyd in ons huis gevoel het, man. Wat is dit met jou?
Ek het uiteindelik as woordeskat gekry vir dit wat ek en my ma al die jare gevoel het. Ek soek net my ma se besittings. Ek wil vir haar begrafnis gee wat sy verdien. Nie een was sy saam met haar merm in die grond gegooi word, omdat gelieflik is vir jou nie.
Vat terug na jou pa toe, jy verdien mekaar jou dankbaar. Jy wat nou oor my gekom, ek sommer. Ek wou nie, ek sommer.
As die sleutel van die buite.
Rebecca, wag, ek is jammer. Asseblief, jy moet my glo. Ek weet nie wat nou gebeur het nie. Ek is jammer, my kind.
En dit gee vir jou die reg.
Nee, gods, nee, natuurlik nie. Jy weet tog nie, jy weet tog ek is nie so nie.
Ek is 'n maklike taler. Jy's hartseer, jy's kwaad. Jou vrou is dood. Jy sê gewoon nie goed hoor wat ek nou vir jou gesê het nie. Ek is 'n gerieflike taal, ek ageer.
Rebecca, jy ken ons. Jy weet hoe ons is. Jy ken ons.
Mensie, dis baie mooi. Die dialoog ek ook mooi. Dialoog is regtig, ek dink dis wat ook kommentaar van die evaluering is dat die dialoog vir mense treffend was. The way the story was thrown from a different perspective than wat mense gewoond is aan. Dis baie geluk met die stuk. Maar jy het onmiddellik, jy het 'n baie duidelike idee gehad van wie jy wil hê, hoe, so, ek het die idee gekry van ek met jou, jy weet hoe ons vir jou gesê het, jy kan nou kies, jy kan besluit, jy bou self dit direct, en jy het ook baie duidelike idees gehad van wie jy in die stuk wil hê. So dit het vir my voorgekom asof dit, jy weet dat jy baie, jy weet hierdie storie is baie duidelik in jou kop. So ek wil net 'n bietjie weet van waar, jy weet, ek wil sê navorsing, maar kind of, hoe lank is jy met hierdie storie, hierdie spesifieke storie gesit, en jy weet, en hoe het hy vorm gekry, soos wat hy nou hier so is.
Dankie, Evo. Die storie kom al saam met my van 2018 af. Dit het eers op baie ander invalshoek gehad. Ek wou eers 'n huishulp gehad het en dan die 2 kinders en die ma en die pa wat doodgaan het. So ek het met verskillende invalshoeke gespeel met die storie en ek het dit ook in verskillende mediums al vir myself uitgeskryf. Ek het al 'n kort verhaal daaroor geskryf. Ek het probeer om 'n movie daarvan te maak. Ek net soos nie eens 'n treatment nie, net soos, hierdie sal 'n cool movie wees op hierdie manier. Ja, ek het baie navorsing daaroor gedoen. Toe ek van Ena Jansen se boek gehoor het van soos familie. Toe was ek so, okay, this is interesting en dit gaan na 'n launch toe, luister in 'n gesprek en ja, ek is gefascineer deur huishulpe en die hele geskiedenis daar rondom unions wat bestaan vir huishulpe, maar met hierdie spesifieke een wou ek kyk na die generational ding. Ja.
En hoekom het jy uiteindelik besluit dat dit 'n verhoogstuk moet wees? As jy sê jy het met verskillende mediums gespeel.
Ek dink dit is die finale vorm nie. Ek dink hierdie is een van die forme.
So dit kan dalk na 'n vorm toe gaan vir jou.
Yes. Ja. Dit kan. En hoekom 'n verhoogstuk want ek wil net theater maak hier goed. Ek het presies 'n jaar gelede laas theater. Ek weet dis ons almal se storie, so maar presies 'n jaar gelede by die Suidoosterfees het ons die leestheater gedoen. So ek wou net theater maak.
Maar gelukkig het hierdie tyd jou genoeg tyd gegee om jou en klaar te maak. Baie geluk, Mercy. Is hy nou in?
Dis 'n gebedssaak. Amper in.
Goed, ek wil baie graag ons begin sommer weer Dion, ek sit jy die hele tyd eerste want jy weet as dit by jou.
Kan jy hoor?
Ja.
Ek was baie ontsteld geweest toe ek die help gesien het. En die sin dat die Amerikaners het daai storie in rom-com vertel. So dit is baie lekker om die storie uit die Engels uit te kry en dan iets te gaan. En ek dink dit is storie wat hier in is, wat allemaal mee bekend is. It asks that question and be angry and it was baie mense help.
Sit net 'n bietjie vir nader, Dion.
Dan kan jy similar stuk gedoen, maar dit nie so seer dit jy weet dit similar issue te doen. So ek dink daar's baie stories wat in daai genre val. But I just like the voice that's coming.
Voordat die vrou manne op die oor, daar is hier so met 2 hande. Robert.
Thank you, Mason. I'd like to kind of share my experience with you if it is of any use to you. Ek is baie gewoond om kind of devil's advocate to speel as a watcher and kind of knowing what the piece was about. I kind of expected, okay, the storyline is going to go about the person, you know, Melanie's karakter gaan hierdie Afrikaner familie so die grond en praat and she's going to remain, you know, kind of reclaim something and you know, I expected that and I braced myself for it. And it ended up being I felt like the piece helped its own devil's advocacy. You know, it's like I kept jumping between protagonists because okay, I get where your story. I can, okay, good point. It's a good point. Wait, let me just think about it. Okay, so op die ou end het ek half begin dink, okay, but what is the solution here? Like, who's the good guy? But and I'm sitting with a feeling of like I have no idea. And that's possibly a good thing. Kind of, there's an onopgeloste story, maar dis lekker om daarmee te engage and to start thinking about it in a way like, okay, wait, yeah, this is a narrative, this is an angle that I haven't thought of before, you know. So it's like constantly re-justifying itself the more human gets into it. So dat was my baie lekker.
Dankie. Ja, ek het ook ek was al daar met die idee dat okay, sy is kwaad en sy gaan hulle uit mekaar uitskeer, maar vir my is dit baie counterproductive. Ek sal eerder wil speel op empatie, hoe ons mekaar verstaan, hoe ver ons gaan om mekaar te verstaan en hoe ons saam op baie vorentoe moet eindig. So ja. Ja.
Hi, Mercy. This is Mary.
Hi, Mary.
Yes, it's well done.
Hierdie is eintlik meer ek weet nie wie van julle sal konteks hiervan hê nie, maar spesifiek ek weet wie Koen Cornelia sou dit gesien het, maar 2 jaar terug se Teksmark was daar 'n spesifieke stuk ook gewees oor 'n huishulp, maar meer in 'n Xhosa kultuur uit waar die ma basically die kinders gefight oor wie is ja, artificial gesê dan maar. Yes, en dit is net daar vir hulle dis maar miskien 'n interessante conversation vir Mercy ook maak om met hulle te gesels. Dit is 'n stuk wat vir my baie my bly laas jaar in die lewens ook na kyk hoe dit met jou se kan bly. So al dat.
Ek dink Cornelia.
Die mense is siek of nie, nou nie nee, wat kan ek sê. Mercy, I think it's a beautiful piece that you wrote, and especially in conversation with the piece that we saw yesterday. And I think the perspective that you bring from it's such an honest reality for us as South Africans. Black or colored, this is the reality that we grew up in. That many of us, majority of South Africans, if you had a person working in your house as a cleaning lady or as a domestic worker, it was not a white woman. And that is the reality. And those women had families and had children of their own. And I think it's so, in that scene between Anna and Melanie, but I needed my mother, but her job was to take care of you. That is such a reality in our country. And it is, we know it's part of the social fabric and the social trauma of our country. That we sit with people who had their parents taken away from them to take care of white kids. And I think it's wonderful. I know Dion will have other examples, I know, but I've not seen, personally, I've not seen the story from this perspective in Afrikaans theatre. So I'm interested in seeing where this can go. Thank you, Nancy.
Thank you, Colin.
Tracy, do you want to comment? Yeah, Tracy wants to comment, and then we'll come to Fahim wants to say something as well.
Congratulations.
Just, sorry, Tracy, if you can just hold the mic closer to your
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I think you've got such an important voice, and it's always interesting to hear you in other contexts, but I think it really shone through in this text. It was very difficult to read. It's not an easy piece. It's not easy to read. It's not easy to watch. I think that's what makes it so brilliant, that it puts you in a place with more questions and answers. And I like what Robert said, that there's no resolution. It's really messy, and it's sticky and yucky. So I know ridiculous words, that's just how it feels. And I think because it sits in a childhood, in a very childhood memory, you can really feel that sense of it coming out. Often the voice comes across very much as a child. And I love that about the writing. It's got so many levels to it. It's so, yeah, it's an excellent piece. I love it.
Thank you, Tracy.
Thanks, Tracy, and Fahim, we saw. Just a hand up if you want to comment.
Well done, Mercy. I think this is a great follow-up for the discussion that we had about the other high school story yesterday or the day. It's kind of what I'd like to say is an endorsement or in line with both the comments here in that it's great to create these characters that you kind of switch between who you root for and which one you identify with, etc. Because that's how you shake it up in your head. You can try and understand what is going on, because this is clearly an issue. A few years ago, we produced Al Farber's Miss Julie, and interestingly, where she changed the Christine character, was traditionally the wife of the young John character, and Al Farber very carefully wrote that character as the mother, and so you had the biological son and the madam's daughter, whom she'd raised as a kid, both her children, so to speak, were also falling in love, and it was that debate, and it's that sort of thing whereby the girl was born, but they were living in the big house, and then you know. So those sort of discussions, I think, and productions like that are worthy, and I think well done for giving a different perspective, because clearly after the other day, it's still something that we are having to grapple with, and we see all the time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for him, and we've got a comment back there.
I just want to say thank you so much vir die storie wat was. En ek dink veral tussen Mel en Anne aan die dialoog daar waar Anne is vir haar, you know, like terug gaan in die memory lane, Breakers die dat gedoen. So coming back to the generational thing, that tyd ek deze was hulle kinders gewees, you know, en dit was hier ding al. My ma weet wat vir julle is, ek ja, tyd. En dan wat ek ook getref het is, toe, ek is nou nie seker dat ek precies, ek gaan sê nie, maar ek weet dat nou toe sê, toe ek af van hulle gaan, toe moes sy op, en daar was dus weggevaar. En ek dink, gister is gepraat van, hy sal, you know, wat is niet meer as die eie ma of pa in die huis, because ek meer like courage om geheim te vertel by die huis op. You know, ek meer like you brave enough to say to her, maar if my ma van die gaat so leeg, maar sy by die huis op gesê, ek laat nie by die huis. Ek weet nie, ek so lang om actually die huis op gesê voor sy gesteek het. Dat is die andere geplan. Nie geplan het nie, maar baie kan gedink het. En dan ook voor de laat nie, het ek hierdie sien afspeel in die kombuis. I don't know, there's something about a funeral and coming back to the kitchen. En allemaal is daar gezellig, you know, gesels. So, okay, so klaar geëer. Nou is het by die huis, like eer is nou nie daar nie, wat maak is nou. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Robin.
Thanks, we've got a comment there. And another comment somewhere?
Ja, ek wil net sê, wat ook 'n kontroversiële tema kan wees, ons het gelag oor die wit man vir vandag. Wat ek baie waardeer van jou skryfwerk is dat jy hom nie 'n obvious bad guy maak nie. En dat daar is iemand wat dink hy is of hy is sympaties teenoor wat besig is om aan te gaan. En ek dink om daai kompleksiteit te wys is ook 'n angle wat mense dikwels nie sien nie. En mense wat uit 'n wide field perspective uitskryf, wat dink om almal die wit mense die soos physical bad guys te maak, maar nie te besef dat even in his own way of knowing his familie, dit dra ook 'n ander vlag van condescendingness. So ek het dit baie waardeer dat jy dit so uitbeeld. En dan het mense daaroor gesê dat ding van, "Ai Shai, maar ek bedoel dit reg, hy dink reg vir familie." Maar dis net 'n ander perspektief van die vrou wat gaan, "Ja man, ek sê vir ons huis op en moet by ons eet, of ek stuur vrugte saam na huis toe," but not realizing all of the implications of that. So ek dink dit was
Yes, ek dink wit mens is vir my fascinating, want om hulle te bash, die gesprek gaan nie verder as dit nie. As ek nou Derek se karakter hierdie doos moes maak, it wouldn't have went wat Engels is dit? It sou nergens een verder as dit gegaan het nie. So, ja, ek wou sy menslikheid, ek wil praat oor empatie, ek wil skryf oor empatie, en like, hy was regtig lief vir Noemi, en vir Rebecca, wel hy is, so, om dit dan, ja, I don't know, ek grapple met wit mans, maar dis vir my, dis interessant, om hulle
You can explore me, Mercy. Ek sal baie graag met jou daaroor verder wil gesels. Is daar enige ander kommentaar daarso?
Ja, dan is om Mercy vra waar in die skrip is hierdie toneel. Begin die einde of
hierdie is die net na die eksposisie. So dit wil klimaks toe gaan.
Is daar 'n versoeningselement aan die einde?
Ek weet nie. Ek is nog nie daar nie. Ek wil nie hê dan moet dit moenie 'n netjiese strikkie op het nie because dis is messy stuff. So dan mag dat nie kumbaya in die. So ja, want Rebecca gaan uitvind wat haar ma van haar weggesteek het en dit gaan haar breek. So ja. En hoekom haar ma vir Derek vertrou het en ja, Derek is glad nie dodgy nie. Daar's niks, want ek weet sulke goed kan baie maklik deursyfer, maar hy's 'n familieman, hy's 'n mens. Hy is outgoing en vriendelik, maar hy praat nie. En ek dink ons het al baie gesprekke gehad oor wit mans, die wit olifante, so ja.
Maar die wit olifant en die wit man is twee verskillende goed. Gordon Mullen sê hulle het albei slurpies.
Karretjies ek jou raam,
Was daar nog 'n hart op geweest? Ek het beelde op nie. Mercy, en net om aan te sluit daarbij, hoe ver is die tekst geskryf? Jy is nog bezig, so, en jy moet nog 'n M ingee, so wanneer gaan hierdie tekst? Wanneer kan ons hierdie volledige tekst verwag en wat het jy nodig daarvoor?
Haat jy my? Haat jy my?
Dink jy?
Hoekom praat jy nooit van die...
Nee, daai, is dit die, maar dis die wit olifant wat ek van praat.
Ja. Ek hoop my studie kyk die live nou nie.
Natuurlijk doen hulle.
Ego? Ek het verskillende plekke geskryf. So ek het die outline van die storie klaar geskryf. Ek het volledige beats vir die storie waarna dit gaan en so. En ek het random stukke dialoog hier en daar waar dit vir my maklik kom, het ek so dis in patches geskryf. Juffrou, wat het ek nodig?
Ja.
'n flat in C-punt sodat ek kan sit skryf terwyl ek uitkyk op die see.
Wie kan vir Mercy waar is die wit mans? Dit is haar ingee. Mercy, ek hoop jy kry jou wit... Ek weer daai sin begin, Mercy. Ek hoop ek kry jou flat in C-punt met die view van die see. Baie dankie.
Dankie.
En sterkte met die M, Mercy. Thank you. Goed. Last script for the day. Written by a white woman. It's by Lauren Thomas. And Lauren, you can come to the stage. I just want to say we're going to finish this play as the last play. Then we're going to take a quick 5 to 10 minute break. And then please come back just for a final 15 minutes. And then Skulky Bag and Albert Frost are getting ready in the garden to play for us. And there's drinks and some snacks, and just come and relax and let's talk a little bit more with each other. But last but not least, Lauren Thomas. Welcome, Lauren.
Is it on? Yes. Okay. Hi. 24 years ago, Peter Durkheim presented No Space on Long Street here at the Baxter, directed by Lynn Marie. That one-man show was a tribute to the Space Theatre in Darwin, Lirenta, which existed in Long Street during the 70s. And in that he was lamenting the fact that there was no Space Theatre on Long Street anymore. The extracts we've seen here in the past few days, we could have seen at the Space. The discussions we've had here could also have happened in the Space Theatre. This is witness to everyone and everything that made Teksmark happen this year. And yeah, I'm grateful and thank everyone for the opportunity. And everyone who engaged here now, but also them back there in the 70s who participated then. So, yeah, as such, I feel like I do stand here on the shoulders of giants. Space on Long Street, in imitation of a noise, is a reflection of the space created by the pandemic. Space which is always there, but needed a pandemic to expose it. Given the space, what do we do with it? Who are we in space? How will I use this space? And then, this play has two parts. Both parts stalk Peter Durkheim's. Space on Long Street is set in a fancy restaurant on the morning of Friday, the 9th of July, 2021. The characters arrive at work, but the restaurant has been liquidated. They've lost their jobs and they're not going to be paid for the week they've already worked. What do they do? The characters are named for the characters in No Space on Long Street, because this is also about the fluidity of time and connection and being. There's Mario the manager, Spider the waitron, Dora who's kitchen staff, Elsie Latkhan the chef, and Gracie the old Long Street patron. The imitation of a noise, which is the second part, is a reflection of Peter Durkheim's memoir, The Echo of a Noise, and the characters morph into some of the statues which were defaced during the Rhodes Must Fall protests. These statues are named for the sculptors who created them. It's 7 years later, and the statues are still occupying their space, or trying to occupy their space, and also trying still to be relevant.
Yeah, why not?
Mario.
No, quickly.
Open house.
Open house.
Wait, what does that mean?
Well, if it moves, you can take it.
Not this one. I'll show you the one. See yours? Yeah. Fat ones will be off the month.
Tick tock.
Lions. And yes, better.
Yeah, just anything you can carry.
One box isn't enough of the blue label. Yeah. Anything more like this? Yeah.
I'll take one box.
Okay, don't get this stuff mixed up with my mess. No, I won't. I'll try. Sweet and white.
Come on.
Hey, no cigars, madame. Hey, I wish I could take the guest bottles too.
Come.
Ooh, my air fryer.
Come on then, come on, he's getting back here, time up! Yo!
Nee, looking good, Ixie. Mom, Annie, you can go out the back. Yeah, you like my air fryer. No, bring the air fryer. Is it a player? The sound system. No, wait a minute.
No, what did you do? Don't let anyone in! Don't let anyone in!
Everyone, calm down, good panic. Look what the cat dragging.
Amazing.
The usual for you?
Of course.
Coming right up.
You're a bit late today.
Yeah, most of some days are crazy.
Fortunately, you're very quiet this morning. Yeah, but still service with a smile. Oh, thank you, my dear. I'm happy to be your first customer and get this show on the road for you.
Gracie,
I wondered when you would notice me, Mario. Good morning.
is this supposed to work?
Is anything the matter? Are you preparing for Christmas in July?
Something like that.
No, not quite. Gracie, you can't stay.
Oh, but I am.
No. Not today.
It would be rude to leave now.
Rude? Why?
The service was so swift and so kind.
No.
It was.
No, it might have been, but it won't be rude if you just leave now.
Without having my coffee.
Yeah, without having the coffee.
I'm having my coffee.
No.
Is it tea? I haven't drunk tea in about 50 years.
His bedside manners need work. Don't listen to him. It is coffee. Drink up.
We're closed, Gracie.
Closed? You all here? A little late, perhaps.
Yes. No, we're definitely closed, Gracie. I mean, does this look like a normal day to you?
Are you fumigating?
Something like that.
Oh, did somebody test positive? You don't have to worry. I won't tell anyone. I'm fully vaccinated. I'll be fine.
Gracie, you can't have.
What he means is, it's time for a new space old girl.
Stop with the old girl, little man.
Backing away from the tiger.
What about breakfast?
Look, I said no to the coffee.
Would you rather I get a takeaway?
Okay, everything's a takeaway today, sir.
What are you saying?
Gracie.
What aren't you saying?
Lovely. They're closing the restaurant.
What wonderful news. When did they start?
It started. Here you go. Get in on this action system.
What?
Gracie.
Mario?
We're closed.
No need to get hit up about it. I thought you said cloned. You probably think I don't know what the Google is either.
Mama, they're closing the restaurant.
Closing?
Have closed.
Finish and klar.
I never heard of anything more ridiculous.
No!
Where will I go? Where will you go? What will we all do? I can't believe this place is doing badly. You're always full. COVID didn't knock you that badly, or did it? And I know. Did you ruin the books? Been dipping in? Not that it shows. Drug problem? No, that's not showing either. It's Jacoby, isn't it? Up to his nonsense. And now we have to pay. The wives, the mistresses, the children. He can't keep up with himself. But we're expected to. And he's never been capable or willing to do an honest day in his life. Always like that, you know. Takes. Gives nothing. No thought for anyone but himself. And let me guess, he's not here. Aye, soaking up the sun somewhere, attached to another common Flossie. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Why'd no one approach me? I've got money, you know, and influence.
Well, things were, that had happened, really fast.
I'm pulling all your legs. Won't have to pay for this today, will I?
Auntie.
I wish you could have seen your faces when I rolled in. You all needed to glitch your matrix. Are we going somewhere?
Yes, we are.
Right now.
Thank you, young man. Goodbye, Moria.
Bye, Gracie.
See you soon.
I'm not really sure, Gracie.
See you soon.
Sit down, wow.
Dean. Outrageous. I said outrageous. Huh? If only you knew. Outrageous. Does none of you care? And where is Marion? She may have been attacked again. Our world is no longer safe. As well you know.
Hasn't she gone for that interview? And as for our world, well, we created it. Try imagining this life if we were born a sow.
Any excuse to bring up your animals.
Speak to yourself. I'm vegan.
You always have to take them there, don't you? Industrialized food, fair cruelty, puppy mills, save the bees. I'm tired of it. What about the real causes? Human ones.
In a nutshell, you just got it. You think you said something else entirely, but subconsciously, you acknowledge the real causes, human ones. But you're so unaware. You don't even know when you're having a conversation with yourself, do you?
Well, I'm having a conversation with you now, aren't I? To what end, I cannot say. I've blocked you, you know. I shan't look at one more of your pictures. Those pictures, or the videos, declawed cat's paws, clubbed baby seagulls, the palm oil orangutans, too dreadful.
Again, spoken for and speaking to yourself.
Mine are just causes.
They're all just causes.
No animal can take the place.
So you can't hear either, it seems. I've got work to do. If you really need to inbox me, I'll respond at my earliest convenience.
Look at all of us, victims of hate crimes, and in broad daylight. Where's Anton?
Daar is hy.
Thank the Lord. Any number of things could have happened to him. Anton! Anton! And he wouldn't know himself. Look at him. I need him to show me how to use this. But it's the racism I can't abide. I've started a petition, you know. It shall be my opus.
Ek kla my nie aan u nie, asseblief.
I've chosen to make a difference. I fight for all the racism.
You just said for all the racism. All the racism.
Exposing the racism.
Oh.
Actually, it goes deeper. The xenophobia. Even them, I'd fight for. Even them, I'm guilty-minded to fight and expose everything.
There's not much left of them to expose.
Global warming.
Is that what you think that was?
That's surely common ground.
Obviously.
Climate change. The pollution. Have you noticed? Something terrible has been happening to metals for years. And now even to marble and stone.
Stuff does happen to metals and even marble and stone over years.
I've been silent for too long. How can I turn a blind eye? If I did, some sectors of our community might be obliterated within a century.
Oh, yes. Should have stopped while you were here.
What?
Like I said before.
Lauren. I think it's fine if we just talk to Laura for this conversation. Going to put you completely on the spot.
So many of them.
Thank you, cast, and thank you, Tom.
Honestly. Yeah, thank you everyone for jumping in. Thank you, Tara, for rushing from school to be here.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks. This is just give a little bit of background for everyone who don't know you, because you actually have more of a career in film and television,
yeah.
right?
Yeah, so I languish in the daily drama sector, so telenovelas. And
Just maybe put the mic closer to your...
telenovelas and being part of this has reminded me, and watching the other works has reminded me just how courageous people in theatre are compared to the environment that I work in. And the writing that I've seen and the performances that I've seen, I've been blown away with in these last few days.
But you started your career at UCT, right?
No, that's...
At Wits.
Yeah.
In theatre.
Well, I started a drama degree and never finished it.
And why did you decide, I mean, this is such a dense play, or plays, actually. Why did you decide to write this for, why did you decide to write for theatre at all, working in television, and then why into Teksmark at this stage?
I think writing for... I wanted to change, and also I feel like the shift or the change will come through theatre. There's a different engagement with the audience. I think that we need to engage with issues and process stuff, which we haven't seemed to do in the years since 1994 on television. I mean, perhaps a small fraction, but I think perhaps we need to look in each other's eyes, even though I'm not looking in anyone's eyes. And the difficult questions and the difficult discussions that we have had here, we've had some, which for me I felt uncomfortable, but learning to sit in that uncomfortableness and go and process it, and I feel is more likely to happen in an environment like this than when it's on television and it's more removed.
And you really wrote I mean, I think you should all read the play that Lauren wrote, because it's really dense and it's difficult to, I think for Tara, and you can speak to this, no, Tara's gone. But I mean, it's really a challenge for, I think there's so many challenges in what you've written for a theatre director to kind of, to unpack and try and figure out, to make it work. And well done to Tara for trying within, a few days to kind of give you the essence. And it's wonderful that you wrote something that really challenges, I think, theatre in a way, and the theatre maker.
Yeah, what was interesting for me was that when I sent this, Tara had already read the script, you sent it to her, and then when I sent her this, I sent the extract that I thought she should do, and I picked the easiest part, well, what I think was the easiest part of the script. And she hadn't looked through the script that I'd sent her, and we started talking, and she immediately just, no, I'm going for the statues. And I was like, okay.
Yeah, but that's Tara. She's always brave, jumps into the deep end.
And she's not yet.
Yeah, we shoot. Yeah. Anyway, I would love to just those who have read the full play, and that is, I think, Dion, you've read it.
Yeah, I know that I like the script, and I love the idea of the two parts. I think difficult to, in a short time, to sort of really capture both.
Because it almost seems like two different
It
plays,
does feel like
which is kind of a question that was asked, like, why? Why?
Yeah, but I know that I love so I hope that I think people should be, because I agree with you. You know, you get a taste of what you're trying to do here, but that's not I think one has to impress both of them together. And I'd love to see them perform. And I love what you're saying about, because I agree with you about theatre is the place where you really get to struggle and to learn and to be educated and get to know one another. More than, because I don't think television, they're great to grapple with those questions. I'm pleased to quite into
And Tracy, I think also what is lovely when you read it is that it's so dense but beautifully balanced dialogue and Dion, yeah, beautiful sense of the theatre space.
Part of the reason that I wrote it, the two segments, was because I was I was referencing the looting that happened in July, and my experience of it was incredibly removed and happening on television screens, and then I live in Johannesburg in an authentic Tuscan villa in a complex, and so during that time watching on television all of everything unfolding, and then people. Samsung televisions and washing machines and fridges and a lot of alcohol and many Nike boxes coming into my complex during those days, and on rubbish day suddenly there are like hundreds of Nike boxes out in Sunny Hill with the dustbins, and so experiencing that, and so that was the first segment. And I remember as well watching the Rhodes Must Fall protests on television as well, and it felt like it was 2 years, or it felt recent but actually that was 7 years ago, and we're still sitting here. So that you have those watershed moments or seismic events on television if you're not actually physically engaged in it. And yeah, I'm not making sense, but so I wanted to, by going back to the statues, I was trying to,
Trying to?
better writing. I was trying to work out, or trying to say something about the fact that the Rhodes Must Fail had happened so long ago, and in the same way as the looting happened recently, but I don't feel like we've resolved the looting, it just went away.
Well, none of it is resolved.
No, yeah.
That's
So it's like we're in a, what other performance art are we in, or for me, being so removed from it.
And you grappled with all of that within the plays as a kind of a way to deal with the fact that it's not resolved.
Yes.
Yeah. Tracy, and then we've got Tara in the audience, so we're coming to you now, Tara. Lovely to have you here.
I really like the way the space goes back to the original idea.
Sorry, Tracy, if you can just put the mic close to you.
I'm never going to get it right. I like the way that it spoke back to the original idea of the space, and ironically, as you say, like the space, like we need another space for another time, maybe for the same reasons and maybe for different reasons. I am interested in just a quick question on why you decided to do it as two very separate kind of pieces in a way, and not as two separate plays.
Yeah.
Because the one play is Space on Long Street, and the other one is The Imitation of a Noise.
Yeah, so Space on Long Street is probably more referring to Peter Locase's No Space on Long Street, and The Imitation of a Noise is referring to his memoir, and he also did, it was also a show, but for me it was because there were two, it was written around two quite startling events, and they felt very different, but yet in the same world, or the same universe. And I wanted to yeah, I was trying to
juxtapose the two?
not so much,
Complement?
no, more
Actually
compliments,
connect them.
or
Yeah.
kind of where we're going, you know, what will be the third thing, what will be...
But it feels, yeah, putting them in conversation with each other, but also with the original works.
Yes.
Yes, so also, so I felt the freedom to do to make them that's different because of what the space was and the theatre that happened in the space. Yeah, so yeah, I felt the freedom that it didn't have to be one thread. I came, I saw, I conquered. It could, and also that it seems like we're in a nest of stuff, or in a...
But Lauren, what I absolutely love about it, and I think that's what intrigued me, was that you had this absolute bravery of doing this, you know, doing exactly that, experimenting, using, you know, the space of writing and theatre and, well, Teksmark to kind of go into what, something that's in your head, something that those intellectual connection almost with you know, referring back to the original, but also kind of putting these two plays and having the bravery to write two plays and putting it in conversation with one another. And why can't we do it? Yes, we can. So I think it's wonderful, and I completely understand why you, because I think we also. I'm glad you're also struggling to explain exactly what it is, and I don't think you have to have a clear answer on that necessarily. I would love to hear from Tara, because the script was sent to Tara, and Tara, we just, in your absence, we said how brave you were and just jumped in, and Lauren also said that you know, she chose an easy piece to kind of do, and you just went right into the most difficult piece.
I mean, do you want me to have a...
Yes, please.
Oh, okay.
You have a seat down.
Just also to say that my intention with this is, at the moment it's about 45 minutes, and my intention always has been that it should be workshopped with the director and the cast, and whatever they want to bring to it, they should, but it shouldn't, be...
Sorry, what was the question?
The question is, I sent you the script, you
Yes.
read it, I mean, it is, we were talking about,
Oh,
you know, it's a challenging script for a director, but you just went,
most difficult
yes,
part
exactly,
to,
exactly.
yeah, no,
And why, and what are your thoughts?
I think, well, like, I think the whole point of Teksmark, which is so wonderful, is to really show the extent and the breadth and the interesting sort of ways and places that a text can go. So I felt like if we had only done like just Gracie, for example, or another part from the first part of the play, that it would have sort of been this injustice, because there is this insane, wonderful, totally weird second part that is in conversation with it. And I think, yeah, we were like, okay, cool, let's just jump straight in and do that, because I think it would have been, I don't know, I feel like something would have been missing if we hadn't gone there and hadn't showed that second potential, because it is a very big part of where the play can go. And I think, absolutely, I think what's really wonderful about Lauren, one of the first things she said to me was, the idea is that it is workshopped with the cast, with the director,
And if it was to go forward into something, I think it would be a really fascinating process, because there are all these weird kind of parallels between, like you've got this looting of this restaurant, you've got Queen Victoria standing, pontificating, and you know, like how much looting did happen in the name of her. And I think there's a lot of really interesting stuff to grapple with, which needs that time to like unpack it and pull it apart, which I think what we presented today was, here's the starting point, and this is the sort of potential of where it can grow.
And it's wonderful because I think, Lauren, it kind of embodies the spirit of what you wanted, and that's the market theatre and the space theatre, and this experimental space where people come together and they create together. You give an idea and then work with performers. Am I right?
Yes,
Yeah.
and also that they talk about the uncomfortable things.
Yes.
Interesting having Mercy here earlier, and she raised the bar, thank goodness, for being nervous on stage, but she recovered afterwards. I haven't recovered, but yet she's, she has been a voice here and she said, she said important things, and she said things I need to hear, and it has made me think about how I wrote, and there are things I need to change.
That's wonderful. Do you have any questions for Lauren? Any comments? Yes. Oh, Marcus.
Sorry, I stole your mic.
Miskien ek nie gedurf, geloof jy is 'n mic.
Thank you very much for this piece. Yeah, very interesting. And that comment that you just made about the looting, that's fascinating. So I wanted to just say, perhaps, seeing also that you're from film or from a sort of kind of a multimedia background, maybe multimedia will help you. And maybe, I don't know, I haven't read the text, I'm speaking completely out of order. I mean, maybe it's written in, but if it's not, I think it might help an audience to have this kind of real stuff, the footage, and then let's say even when the road was full, you have whatever, either news lines or actual footage, and then you have the sort of absurd, heightened acting with these people, that you really push the juxtaposition in all sorts of ways. Or maybe the looting and then the liquidization of the restaurant. Like you said, looting in the boxes come out. And that's more directorial than writing, but it could be written into the text.
Maybe the question is then, is it written into the script? Did you write it with something like that in mind at all, or is that something?
I did think about that. And then I thought that I was being lazy because I was, because I'm from TV and film, so I thought I'll go more.
Staging.
Yeah. I think the combination would be perhaps wonderful to guide an audience.
Yeah, that'd be so cool.
And to make those links.
Yeah, it'd be really, really rad.
All right. Oh, we've got a comment right there, Larieta. A few more steps for you, Larieta.
Just also that with the statues and all the social media, the intention is to have that the social media would be live and the accounts would exist for Queen Victoria. They'd all have accounts. They'd all have, or whichever accounts they're on, the Facebook.
Sorry, I just repeat. Okay, so just explain that. So the audience will be able to go onto during the show, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
So the commander that was coming down through and taking pictures of us, I hope he's going to wipe those.
Yeah, don't worry. Your pictures are definitely going to be deleted.
A very quick question about context. Why did you pick AIDS? I mean, because the space is a space for like multiple voices and people, and what was that context within your writing? Where did you draw from? What drew you to him?
So I settled on him because I kind of bounced between Cape Town and Johannesburg, and I have lived in Cape Town often and for a long time. And I worked at a restaurant in Long Street, and he used to, not when he lived there, but he used to live in Carnival Court on Long Street. And the restaurant where I worked was downstairs from where the Space Theatre used to be. And then also I had a boss who had a book. He had that Brian Asbury book about the Space Theatre, and in his office, and I used to look at it often. I had heard about the space, but I hadn't, and then through the book, and just walking up and I'm a pedestrian. I prefer to walk than automobile. Yeah. So just walking up and down Long Street a lot, and over the years watching how it's shifted and changed, and him having written No Space on Long Street, and then just thinking about the fact that so many businesses and venues have closed. But my link to him, also that he's tireless. You know, he's still putting work out and trying to engage with the world, and which perhaps I haven't done, and wanting to try and be more like him in that way of engaging with the world more. And
thanks. Nothing else. Thank you so much, Dora. Thank you, Lauren. This is
Thank you.
We're going to take a literally 10-minute break, smoke break and whatever, and then everyone comes back here, and then we can go and drink some Rivita wine. Thank you. We can also end the live stream for